We have designee, Secretary of Natural Resources with us this morning. And so I'm going to take Chairman's prerogative. There are three bills that kind of work in concert with each other, and they are House Bill. It would be House Bill 516, David Belliva's, House Bill 847, which is my bill, and then we also have Delegate Belliva, House Bill 1309. And those all work together to try to solve a problem that we're getting to. I will quickly, we'll give a synopsis of all three. These work in concert with each other. We've been trying very hard so they do not conflict with each other. And with that, what my bill does is actually it creates an authority where we can create a conduit from the federal government to the state of Virginia. The administration feels like this is the cleanest way where we can have one person, one entity deal with the federal government, and all funds will flow through it to the loan authority and through for coastal flooding. And with that, I'm going to ask if the Secretary would like to get up and say a few words about this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the administration, Governor, myself, we support HB 847, the Virginia Resiliency Authority. It creates a single state entity to develop, manage, and integrate restoration and resilience, directing the Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources and the Secretary of Transportation in consultation with the Virginia Resiliency Authority to make further recommendations on Virginia resiliency efforts. As you mentioned, this is modeled after the Louisiana's program, the Louisiana Coastal Protection and Resiliency Authority. That authority was created following Hurricane Katrina. At that time, I was working in the United States Senate as the staff director for the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. Prior to Katrina, Louisiana had a long history of spending a lot of money on projects that didn't necessarily get them to the end that they wanted to achieve.
Just 1 minute.
Certainly.
Excuse me 1 second. There is a substitute, so let's move the substitute so everybody can.
I move to adopt the substitute.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So it should be released on LIS.
And please take it for granted that I was speaking towards the substitute.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I worked with the state of Louisiana on when they set up their Coastal Resiliency Authority. It worked very well, and it's worked very well for them since Katrina. It's helped direct the way they spend federal dollars. It's helped them get more federal dollars and make sure that the projects that are saving that coast and the resiliency issues within Louisiana to be better spent, better managed, and better coordinated across the entire state government. And we see the same thing here in the state of Virginia, having a resiliency authority that not only would help the coastal areas, but also the rest of the state that has any flooding issues as well, and help prepare the state to maximize federal resources and direct the resources to where it really needs to occur here in the state. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think Delegate Weber, is it for myself or? Go ahead, Delegate
Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is, and whenever we have stuff like this, any authorities, et cetera, and most people know I have a libertarian streak, so I don't like authorities. But my question is, how much is this going to cost?
I don't believe there's direct money, there's specific money in this legislation, but there will be expenses, and I can see if we have a cost estimate for you. But I think at the end of the day, we'll end up saving the Commonwealth money because it will make sure that we are accessing all the federal funds that we possibly can, and it will direct them to projects that are really necessary and important for resiliency purposes. So I think at the end of the day, despite the cost of running the authority, I think we will see overall a savings to the taxpayer and a benefit to all Virginians.
And a direct answer to the delegate, I think we've put aside 2.5 in the budget this year for it. Any other questions to the speaker or to myself? And what I'd like to do is let Delegate Belliva present his bill also, because they do work in concert with each other, and it would be, I think, the pleasure of at least us to move it together forward forward together because there's still some work in progress where we have some cross currents between the two.
And we do believe this legislation is compatible with other resiliency bills that are going through
Yes,
the
sir.
process.
We've worked very hard to try to get it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
And all right, let's move on to Delegate Belva and pick up whichever bill you'd like, sir. Just let us know.
Right. Thank you, Chairman Bloxham. And so I've got two bills. The first one is House Bill 516, and I actually have a substitute for that, if I could put that before the committee.
Move to adopt the substitute.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion to adopt substitute. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, substitute's adopted.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Mr. Chairman, that's actually a line amendment if you want me to read. that
Yes.
one in.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
No, it's just an amendment.
I got ahead of myself.
Mr. Chairman, this is very technical. On line 114, after "and," the first instance, strike flood protection plan and insert Virginia flood protection master plan. It's just, there's an official plan set forth throughout the bill.
Okay, so do we need to make a,
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion for the substitute and make a motion to adopt the amendment.
okay? All right, so we're going to adopt the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the amendment's before us. The bill's before us.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So House Bill 516 strengthens the resiliency planning process. The second one, House Bill 1309, that I'll describe after this one, creates a financing mechanism that's very similar to the very successful Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund that we have. And so for this one, for those of you who are not aware, we've actually spent a great deal of time, energy, and money creating a coastal resiliency master plan. And actually, this is a really, really important document in terms of setting a solid foundation for our resiliency plans in Virginia. I think the one thing that we came to recognize in that process is that while that's focused on coastal areas, that resiliency is much more than just a coastal issue. It's about the rest of Virginia as well in terms of hazards such as inland flooding. And so we knew that we needed to go ahead and address that as well. House Bill 516 has a couple components. The first is to make sure that coastal resiliency master plan is actually a living document. There's nothing that breaks this planner's heart more than when you have a really good document that sits on a shelf and collects dust. And so we make sure that it's a living document by doing a couple things. First of all, it formalizes the already established technical advisory committee that's been put in place to assist in monitoring and updating the plan. Next, it requires that the plan be updated by December 2024 and then provides a 5-year update cycle similar to what local governments have to do with their comprehensive plans. And then it requires our chief resiliency officer every 2 years to provide a report on how that plan is being implemented. The second part of the bill, again, is to ensure that the rest of Virginia is addressed through the development of a Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan. So actually the requirement in the code for a flood protection plan was sponsored by former Delegate Chris Stolley all the way back in 2015. And that actually never got done. So we have something in the code that says we're going to develop a flood master plan, but it didn't get off the ground. And so what this bill does, it actually provides some specificity in terms of expectations. So it kind of mirrors what we have for the coastal resiliency master plan. And then sets a deadline of 2026 in order to be able to develop the plan and sets a 5-year update process. With regard to both bills, DCR is assigned the responsibility, as they already have, to make sure that these are integrated together and mutually supportive. And then finally, I think what we learned out of the Coastal Resiliency Master Plan process is that public input and outreach is very important. And so it directs DCR to go ahead and develop a community outreach plan to better engage those communities in the decision-making process. And so, Mr. Chairman, that is the planning bill. It just provides some additional robustness and accountability with regard to the planning process. Now we come to House Bill 1309, and this is the one where we do have a substitute, if I could get that before the committee. Okay.
1309. Move the substitute.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. All right, so House Bill 1309, there is a substitute, and it is released.
All right. So 1309 establishes a new financing mechanism to complement the resilience planning efforts. And so I know we are going to have a great debate today about Reggie and the funding sources that come along with that. We're going to need this money regardless of Reggie's fate. And so if Reggie goes away, we're definitely going to need this money with respect to resiliency planning. Even if Reggie stays in place, if Reggie works the way it should, it's going to generate less and less money. And so you'll absolutely need something like this to go ahead and supplement it. House Bill 1309 is modeled after, again, our very successful Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund. And so that's our fund that provides financing for wastewater and also stormwater upgrades. Similar to that Clean Water Fund, the fund is going to be jointly administered by the Virginia Resources Authority in cooperation with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. And the Soil and Water Conservation Board would actually be the board that approves the different projects. And again, similar to the way we do the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund, that makes sure that we're taking advantage of our existing bodies and institutions so that we can reduce the bureaucracy to go ahead and implement the program. We've run the language both by VRA as well as the Bankers Association, and they are comfortable with the language. The primary delivery mechanism of the fund is for loans to local governments. And then it also allows for grants under certain circumstances. I think the most important feature of this, though, and why we wanted to make sure VRA and the Bankers Association were comfortable with it, is that it does provide a mechanisms to provide loans to local governments, which can then go ahead and loan that money out to private individuals. And that's really important because when you think about most of our infrastructure here in Virginia that's at risk, it's not just public infrastructure, it's also private infrastructure. If you're interested, I can kind of go ahead and give you an idea of what the fund can be used for, but it can be used for things like projects that are identified in the coastal master plan and also the inland flooding master plan, but also for areas where we know that it's going to continue to reoccur flooding and it's going to be too expensive to continue to rebuild. It gives an opportunity to go ahead and actually buy out those properties and reduce costs and loss in the long term. I think another really important factor to this is it is critical to have a funding mechanism like this to go ahead and pull down federal match funds, especially through FEMA. It's something that's been implemented in South Carolina and Maryland to much success. And again, as the chairman went ahead and noted, these two concepts, both the planning concept and the funding concept, each kind of cover different aspects of the larger issue of climate resiliency and can work in tandem together. So with that, Mr. Chair, that is an overview of the bill. I do have Adrienne Petula here with the Chesapeake Bay Commission, who was instrumental in pulling all the parties together for this, and she can help with any technical questions.
All right, thank you. It looks like we have a question. Delegate Weber.
All right, thank you. All right, so Delegate, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions, just for clarification on my part. So in regards to the loans, et cetera, correct me if I'm wrong, the authority would receive funds from various sources, possibly from the other authority that we're creating. And then would it be localities that would apply for a low interest or no interest loan for various resiliency projects or grants? Now, they would apply to the authority, and then those projects would then be approved by the Soil and Water Conservation Board?
So Mr. Chairman,
I'm trying to clarify the flow, and
right. So actually two different things. So the authority is separate and deals with respect to engaging in projects kind of statewide. The revolving loan fund is different. And so again, that's VRA and the Soil and Water Conservation Board, and they would deal directly in terms of providing loans to local governments. So it's not that the money would go up and then back out. They would have the authority to go ahead and work it directly with the local governments.
Okay, so I guess my question is, how does the flow of the funds, because so if we're pulling down federal funds, how does that flow happen? Does it start with Delegate Bloxham's bill and then
Starts through the authority.
start the tree?
The authority can be a federal partner for pulling down grants or loans or going after matching money with the Corps of Engineers is where this is coming from. It flows down from them. They would be the partner.
And then from this authority would be these other aspects, correct?
Right. So it could be, so it could be federal
Apology.
funding, it could be authority funding, need to go to appropriations as well, because we want to go ahead and seed the fund with some of our own money, just to go ahead and capitalize it. But the idea is this would be a repository for however the funds go ahead and come into it to be dispersed out to local governments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate William Grace, question?
Thank you, Chair. So my question is with regard to the use of the funds in terms of grants. So for example, I know Norfolk just got a multi-million-dollar grant, and it requires like $139 million match. So is this an opportunity for the locality to obtain funds for that, for their local match?
So, Mr. Chair, so primarily this is meant to be a loan fund. However, it is structured in such a way that you could use this for bridge or gap financing. So if a locality wasn't able to go ahead and come up with a match right away, they could actually go ahead and apply and use this to go ahead and have that count as the match in order to be able to take advantage of federal funding or other sources of funding.
Okay, one more question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
If the locality decided that they wanted to do that, would that go against that locality's bond rating? Do you know?
See, I am not sure. I don't know if Adrian Tool is here, somebody from VRA would be able to answer that question.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Jones. I'm with VRA. So if the locality was borrowing for funds to match the other funds you're talking about, that would certainly contribute to their debt levels. So it would be incorporated into their general borrowing, but as it would for any other borrowings, it would be treated just the same as any other loan that they would take out from any lender.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and break the bills apart, and while we have the Secretary Designee here, what I'd like to do is have the people to speak in favor of my bill, House Bill 847. We've got some that are to speak against virtually, but do we have anyone here to speak in favor of House Bill 847?
I'll make it brief. I'm Gretchen from the Hampton Roads Chamber, and we support your bill, and we also support Delegate Hayes' bill, so I'll just cover that while I'm up here as well.
All right. All right, any other questions on House Bill 847?
Move to report.
Is that
Oh,
the-
hold on. So we need to move to report and refer.
No. No, mine does not. Mine has money tied to it already.
Okay, so move to report. With substitute. Thank you, Lisa.
All right, so we have a motion to report the substitute, and properly seconded on House Bill 847. We could have that come up. Bill reports 10-0. All right, so now let's move to Delegate Belova. Which bill would you like to pull up first?
We can do either one at your pleasure, Mr. Chairman, say 516.
Yes. Okay, so let's take first the House Bill 516, the lower numbered one. There are people to speak in favor of, but I'm not sure if the train is leaving the station if they want to get in the way of it, if you understand what I'm saying. So we'll just, so we're on House Bill 516. We have a motion?
Move to report as amended. Report and refer as amended to appropriations.
Second.
All right, we have a bill that's properly motioned. Seconded. House Bill 516. If we could vote on that. All right, that bill reports 9-1 to report and refer to appropriations. All right, and then the last set of the trio would be House Bill 1309. Delegate Belvas. And there again, I think we only have people to speak in favor of. Anyone to speak against? All right, hearing none.
Substitute and refer to appropriations.
All right, so we have a motion to report the substitute and then refer to appropriations on House Bill 1309. All those in favor? And that bill, report and refer to appropriations 10-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we'll move to the next bill on the docket. Let's see here, I don't know who was first. Oh, that's fine. All right, Delegate McQuinn.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Long day. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I hate to have my back turned to people.
Unfortunately, it's just an awkward room.
So, Mr. Chair, I have House Bill 141, and I'm here to introduce this bill, the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Conservation Fund. What this bill would do is would provide grants for the acquisition, the protection, and rehabilitation of tribal land, historic and archaeological sites of significance associated with Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color. The purpose of the legislation is to create, as I said before, create a grant program to protect and support Virginia's historically underserved and underrepresented communities, the cultural and historical sites associated with them. This was actually, funds for it was introduced in the budget, actually Governor Northam's budget, I think at estimated $10 million over 2 years to establish this conservation fund. And currently there are organizations that are associated with it: Virginia Land Conservation Foundation, the Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund, and the Virginia Outdoor Foundation Preservation Trust Fund. These are grants that are dedicated to ongoing programs targeted to the acquisition, again, protection of battlefield, farmland, parks, forests, and natural areas. There is no grant fund which would target these cultural and historical sites. And so we are asking that we would give the support to, again, to continue to preserve the rich history of Virginia. And we do have individuals here who would like to speak in favor of House Bill 141.
I guess my first question, could you repeat the funds that are similar to this, but not exactly?
There are currently these different organizations are associated with funds that protect and preserve land and sites and whatnot. So they're the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation, the Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund, and the Virginia Outdoor Foundation Preservation Trust Fund. So all of those presently address these particular issues from different other perspectives.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Delegate Weber.
So, Delegate McQuinn,
Yes.
are there any current projects that would be in the hopper, kind of ready for this?
There are, yes, I think, yeah.
I'm fascinated.
Yes. And there are individuals here today who can, again, speak more to that in reference to those particular, that particular.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right, any other questions from the committee? Yes, sir. Delegate Ware.
Mr. Chairman, I take it that this is from the Division of Historic Resources, is that correct?
Well, previously, I know the Division of Historic Resources was working with this, but they have not taken a position because I don't think that has come down yet in the transition of government. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily they're taking a position because they have not gotten the authority yet.
And I guess my...
Yes. Or follow-up.
But this would, if this program were approved, it would be in the division?
Yes, yes. It would go to, yes, it would go to that particular division, Department of Historic Resources. They would take the lead on it.
Okay.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, I have one other question, and it might come out in the testimony, so I'll just put it out there, and then if it comes in the testimony, it would.
Yes, sir, Delaware.
We know that the farmland and the battlefield and land conservation would be among those that would be in the works right now. I would be interested in how they are funded currently, what the process is for funding and who funds those programs. So.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know, in terms of their question, that doesn't, dictate that the Department of Historic Resources would take a position, but they certainly would know because that is what they're doing now, not in reference to this, but other ways.
Right.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we have some positions for the bill in the virtual room. We'll go to the virtual room first. I see Pat Calvert is in the room. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. We're in full support of this legislation, and I'll defer to Ms. Constantine for any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. And Adam Gillenwater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adam Gillenwater with the Piedmont Environmental Council. We'd like to thank Delegate McQuinn for patroning this legislation throughout PUC's service area, the Virginia Piedmont. Historic resources of minority communities have often gone overlooked and haven't benefited from state grant funding to help ensure their protection. And this fund's creation would go a long way to helping address that issue. And so we hope the committee will vote to advance this legislation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Elizabeth Cole, can't read it from here. Elizabeth.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Elizabeth Costelny. I'm with Preservation Virginia, and I'd also like to thank Delegate McQuinn for offering this bill. As a statewide nonprofit, we're very familiar with the challenges faced by groups that are trying to save these historic places. The need is great. The groups are nonprofits, tribal organizations, and localities, and often they don't have the technical abilities or they lack the resources to compete in traditional grant programs. So this would be a very needed supplement to their work, and it would help preserve, acquire, and save churches, schools, and other structures. And currently, these structures and archaeological sites and cultural landscapes don't qualify under the other programs that were mentioned. So this could be a game changer, and Preservation Virginia really encourages your consideration.
Okay, thank you. And last is Zachary Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zachary Sheldon with the Nature Conservancy. Just want to associate my comments with the others who have spoken. We support this legislation.
Okay, thank you. And then anyone in the room to speak in favor of?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Shippey with Sierra Club, and we support the bill. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Alexander McCauley with the American Battlefield Trust, and we support the bill. Just wanted to point out, for example, that there have been 200,000 African Americans have fought in wars in our country: Civil War, War of 1812, Revolutionary War, and these sites are not properly protected. More needs to be done. This will help with that. Just give the example of the Battle of Great Bridge in the Revolutionary War, very important battle. Blacks fought on both sides in that battle, and there's a lot of work to be done down there, and this fund will help with that.
All right, thank you. Anyone to speak against the bill? Oh, come on. Speak in
Sorry,
favor of.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking for the bill. I'm Chief Ann Richardson of the Rappahannock Tribe, and I ask for your support for this bill, as we have written grants to preserve archaeological sites, village sites in towns, historic towns along the Rappahannock River and in other places that were a part of our historic territory. And these places have been plowed over and developed and everything else. And it's very, very important to be able to capture and preserve those places, because that is an intricate part of Virginia's history as well as everyone else. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone to speak against the bill? Any
Mr.
other
Chair-
comments from the committee? Yes, ma'am. Delegate Fullercorn.
I'd just like to commend the patron for introducing this bill. I think quite clearly the greatest obstacle for localities and small local organizations is, seeking to preserve the history and historic places of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And I think establishing this fund would help preserve history. And with that, I would move to report.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion on House Bill 141 that has been properly seconded. Let's open the roll. All right, bill reports 9-0.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Have a good evening.
All right, is Delegate Hayes, were you next, I think, sir?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You have before you House Bill 602, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's get that in front of us. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, as I watched the presentation of your bill and Delegate Bolivar's bills, it put me in a place and a reminder of my faith that we draw back on many Tico Upharsin. And that says that the handwriting is on the wall. And so we understand what posture we're in now with this piece of legislation. I'll just say, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, just as the chair of JCOTS has also studied, Delegate Bolivar, this flooding issue, we commissioned a study by the Virginia Association of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. And in that study, they concluded that there really needs to be a coordinated effort across the Commonwealth's organization through the governor's office, as well as the establishment of a Commonwealth Flooding Board that can continue to work on these issues over time. It also points to the fact that even though that study was commissioned to look at and to focus on coastal flooding, it was revealed that this is quite honestly an issue that we're dealing with all across the Commonwealth. And so what this piece of legislation would do is to create a Commonwealth Flooding Board directly modeled after the Commonwealth Transportation Board, where there is precedence for statewide oversight and coordination. Each of the key secretariats or their appointees would be members of the board, along with key PDCs and a few at-large members with experience in small business, housing, and military operations. The 2020 legislation passed, creating a Chief Resiliency Officer established in code, but it does not state that the Chief Resiliency Officer must be the Secretary of Natural Resources. Therefore, the recommended language places this position to head the office under the Special Assistant. The language mirrors the current precedents of the Governor's Office of Diversity and Inclusion. With this structure, no one secretary would be the decision maker for project approval / funding, but the decision would be made by a board similar to the approval process currently in place by the CTB for project inclusion. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that is in a nutshell, in summation of what this piece of legislation, House Bill 602, will actually do in establishing this Commonwealth Flood Board.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. Delegate Hayes, so we had the presentation that you alluded to in regards to Delegate Bolivar's piece of legislation that developed another flood plan. How would this differ from, I guess, or complement the legislation that Delegate Bolivar and Delegate Bloxham have put forward?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate, as I said earlier, the whole issue is that it needs to be dealt with in a comprehensive manner. And I heard that through these other pieces of legislation that it will be dealt with in a comprehensive manner and dealt with over time, and that it wouldn't be a one-off just studying an issue and then trying to throw some money at it one time, but there would be a matter of not only resiliency, but sustainability in following this issue across the Commonwealth.
All right, any other questions or comments? So we do have some people for the bill. I see that the City Council, Clellan is on there if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to Delegate Hayes. I, in addition to serving on the Norfolk City Council, chair the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, and we've been working with Delegate Hayes to craft this bill because we knew that there needs to be statewide coordination as it relates to flooding in the Commonwealth, that there needs to be some additional oversight over the Community Flood Preparedness Fund and some additional technical assistance. To be honest with you, Mr. Chair, based on the amendments that you provided in your bill today, it seems like you both have hit the nail on the head. So I would just say that I support both of your bills, and I appreciate both of you for recognizing the importance of addressing flooding statewide in the Commonwealth. And again, to Delegate Hayes for his leadership there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, at this time, we'll, I guess, entertain a motion if.
Mr. Chairman, move to report.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a substitute motion?
Yes. Well, since I'm going to make a motion, I can't speak to it. I gently lay the bill on the table.
So we have a clear motion to lay the bill on the table. I think with bills that came before this, I think the issues could be thoroughly studied. Lay the bill 602 on the table. All in favor? Thank you. Delegate, the bill is laid on the table 5-4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just offer observation about Delegate Hayes. On this, because we didn't have a chance during the motion, making the motions, but it's clear from what testimony was and from your own testimony that you've been involved in this. It seems to me that if we keep it in one place, the comprehensive nature of it would be addressed by having it in one location. Manifestly, there are a lot of people who are involved in this and keeping things. That's the reason I support it.
I would echo those sentiments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to belabor the fact, but just a, I don't know, question, observation. So where we're going as a state in this whole arena, so from this whatever point forward, does every single flood get written up as a result of climate change or whatever we want? I mean, we've had floods pretty much forever. And so now, we're moving this direction. And so my concern is, are we going to be taking resources that are intended to address, I'm not diminishing any particular person's needs going forward, wherever they're at in the state, but, the conversation's directed around our coastal regions and that kind of a thing. That's just, I'm just throwing it, I'm wondering to myself and kind of out loud, where we go in the future with this whole subject. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Say that this is a work in progress. Is what we're moving forward with. So with that, the bill has been laid on the table. The next bill, Delegate Krizik, I think you guys have the bills in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you mind starting with 1266? I think it's easier, and it probably should go up to probes if you guys pass it.
Yes, sir. House Bill 1266.
So we have now 7 federally recognized tribal nations here in Virginia. And Department of Historic Resources must comply with federal laws that protect our tribe's sacred sites, burial grounds, and historic places. Department needs personnel and with expertise in working with tribes to ensure that Virginia meets its federal obligations under the National Historic Preservation Act, Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, and the National Environmental Policy Act, among others. In addition, Native American sites have long been overlooked in the Commonwealth, and only a very small percentage of sites on the state landmarks register are associated with Native Americans in Virginia. This position, which would be a full-time tribal outreach liaison to assist the department in outreach to Virginia's tribes for the utilization of the department's programs, would ensure that we preserve what is left and demonstrate that Virginia values its history. Let me stop, and I forgot to do this, but we have an amendment. I'm sorry, and council can.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the amendment?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, the amendment is on line 66. After the word assist, strike the remainder of lines 66 and 67 and insert the department in outreach to Virginia tribes for utilization of department programs.
Mr. Chairman, that makes it more narrowly tailored, and that's what the department had asked for. I have people here to speak to it.
All right. Well, any questions for the patron?
Oh, yeah, we need a motion to amend.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I note that you have this bill, and you do have a second bill, Delegate Krizik, which includes an ombudsman. Can you distinguish the roles of the tribal liaison here and the ombudsman for the federally recognized tribes that you're proposing in a separate piece?
Mr. Chairman, the ombudsman is in the Commonwealth, the Secretary of the Commonwealth Department. This is over at the National Historic. This is the Department of Historic Resources. And if anybody's not been there, I've had a few opportunities to go and visit. It's really amazing, and they've got all kinds of artifacts and things there. It's worth a visit. But this is really to add a position. I think last year or 2 years ago, Senator McClellan was able to get a position for that would do some of this part-time, but this is to make it a full-time position. And it's a completely different situation. But if you don't mind, I will explain the ombudsman when I get to that bill, because it's totally different.
Any other questions for the patron? All right. And let me look at my list here. Virtual room. We've got 2 people in the virtual room for this bill. Jessica Phillips.
Hi, thank you. Jessica Phillips. I am a member of the Eastern Chickahominy tribe, and I just wanted to say that I support this bill. As Virginia tribes continue to develop relationships with state agencies, it's imperative that there's a tribal liaison with DHR that is knowledgeable in our culture and our history. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Reggie Stewart.
Good afternoon. I'm Reggie Stewart. I'm Second Assistant Chief with the Chickahominy Tribe. And I would like to voice my support for this bill. As Jessica mentioned, this will facilitate communications between the Department of Historic Resources and the tribes involved in meeting these federal requirements, and also assisting with the tribal governments, making sure that that the federal government is complying with their responsibilities.
All right, thank you. And are there people in the room to speak in favor of the bill?
Thank you, Delegate Krizik. Mr. Chairman, I hate to pop up again, but this is something that is very near and dear to my heart, as I have engaged archaeological teams in Maryland and Virginia that are working to recover the history of the tribes that have been lost to over the years and have not been highlighted. And so this position is very important because there are a number of federal laws that we have to comply with as a state that pertain just to the Native Americans, Native American Graves Repatriation Act, and a number of other preservation also codes that we will have to adhere to. So it's important to have someone there that understands these codes and understands the history of and how to work with the tribes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of? Okay, anyone to speak against this bill? All right, the bill's in the committee. If y'all, any suggestions or questions to the patron?
Mr. Chair, I move to report. Yeah, move to report the substitute.
Now, I do have if we act favorably on the bill, it will need to be referred to appropriations.
And I have a budget amendment.
It's an amendment, not a substitute, correct? So we have a motion to report and refer with amendments to Appropriations, House Bill 1266. All right, the bill is report and referred, passes 7-2. All right, thank you, and I think you have one other bill?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. This, for you, I have now HB 715, and I have several amendments to this to conform it to the Senate cognate carried by Senator McClellan, which is Senate Bill 482.
All right, do we have a motion on the amendments?
Move to adopt the amendment.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Move to adopt the substitute.
Yeah, it's really a substitute.
All right, so all in favor of adopting the substitute?
Yeah.
All right, so now the substitute is before us.
All right, Mr. Chairman, what this does is, as I said, the amendments conform this bill to Senate cognate carried by Senator McClellan. The bill calls for certain state agencies, DEQ, Department of Conservation and Rec, Virginia Marine Resource Commission, to consult, etc., to consult Virginia's federally recognized tribal nations when they're issuing state permits for projects that may harm the Virginia tribe's environmental, historic, or cultural resources. Remember, Native people of Virginia have a future that's shaped by their history, and it's time for Virginia to acknowledge their tribal sovereignty and create this. I think this really will help to create a positive relationship. What this consultation process mirrors is the existing requirements that federal agencies consult with tribal nations. The bill does not give tribes a veto over any projects, and with these friendly amendments, which were negotiated in the Senate with Agribusiness and the Farm Bureau, further clarifies that tribal consultation will not extend permitting timelines, and that we have what we think is what we have is peace in the valley. That did pass almost unanimously. The bill also creates a position of the tribal ombudsman that Delegate Ware was referencing it earlier, and that role is to liaise with state agencies and tribal nations to ensure the development of meaningful consultation policies. This portfolio can be given to an existing employee of the Secretary of the Commonwealth. In fact, I believe there is already a ombudsman position, so the state will not incur additional costs. Passage of this legislation will help avoid difficult situations, and what it basically does is it puts the tribes in the very beginning of the consultation process, so that you don't come at the end and then say, oh, what about Virginia's tribes? Has anybody talked to them? This is really to get it into the beginning and to have and treat the tribes with the respect that their sovereignty deserves. So I have a number of people here to speak to the bill and explain it if you have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Okay, any questions from the committee? All right, so now we do have two people online, in the virtual room, that are here to speak for the bill. Jessica Phillips.
Hi, thank you. As a member of the Chickahominy Eastern Division, I'm also the environmental director. And as the environmental director, I work with federal consultations regularly, and tribes only request consult on a very small fraction of those projects. And when we do participate in consultations, Early consult with tribes is an integral part of our coordination between our governments. So I think federal consultation with federally recognized tribes has a huge impact to the long-term success of projects. I believe having open communication between state agencies and federally recognized tribes will have the same effect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Reggie Stewart?
I, as Second Assistant Chief of the Chickahominy Tribe, I also voice my support for this bill. The existence of a tribal consultation framework would be similar to the relationship between the tribes and federal agencies regarding federal projects that may impact tribal communities. This will allow tribes to have a voice in the process prior to the start of these projects. Thank you.
All right, and anyone in the room to speak in favor of?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this is a kind of a signal event in the life of the Chickahominy Indian Tribe. It's the first time I've addressed this august group as a head of state. Federal recognition in January 29, 2018 accorded us sovereignty as a federally recognized tribe with sovereign status. And that sovereign status brings with it the responsibility of federal agencies to consult with federally recognized tribes. It builds up to the state-to-state relationship that we would have with the Commonwealth of Virginia. And consultation on matters that this bill speaks to is vital to the tribes, to the extent that in the past, consultation has simply been, we're presented with something that's been completely vetted before it comes to us, often presented in an 8.5 by 12 laminated glossy folder. And then they've come to us and just say we are consulting when the decision is already made. What this does is ensure that tribes are consulted, and to go a little further, if these agencies are recipients of federal funds down the road, they will have to consult anyway, because if you receive federal funds, it's imperative, or as part of that, the agencies are constrained to consult with the federally recognized tribes. So I speak in full support, as I said, Stephen Atkins, Chief of the Chickahominy Tribe, in support of HB 715, with amendments negotiated with the Farm Bureau and Agribusiness. It passed the Senate Agriculture Committee with overwhelming bipartisan support. I come to you appealing for that same kind of bipartisan support, and with the request and hope that this is passed and reported out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Frank Adams, Chief of the Upper Mattaponi Tribe in King William County, Virginia. Delegate Ransom and Delegate Fowler represent part of our tribal service area. And I just want to say this bill is important for both tribes and developers. I assure you we are not anti-development. On the contrary, we're trying to reestablish our home base, our Adamstown properties with some development activity of our own. And I personally own a piece of property in Henrico County that I'm trying to get developed right now. So I know how tiresome it can be. So I would like to, I'd like to think that we would be consulted early on, so anybody that ties up their money and their time wouldn't have these problems later on in the project as it moves forward. So with that being said, we ask for your vote today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Trip Pollard on behalf of Preservation Virginia and the Southern Environmental Law Center. For all the reasons others have eloquently stated, we support this bill. Early consultations, a win-win for developers, for the tribes, and for protecting our natural, historic, and cultural resources. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of it? All right, anyone here to speak against the substitute? All right, but I do have a question on this bill, Delegate Krizik. I'm trying to figure out if I consult early on, but I do not accept federal money, then there's no reason to consult with the federal government. Is that the way that process works?
I'm going to ask if our attorney for the tribes can speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, the federal government is required to consult with tribes whenever they're spending federal money, issuing a federal permit, or allowing any activity to occur on federal land. So tribes are consulted on any federal permit. We're talking here about state permits, which often happen earlier than the federal permitting process on the same project.
I guess a follow-up question,
Yeah.
ma'am, then I know it's consultation only, but it seems to me that if they speak against it, that would carry a fair amount of weight since it's the first letter that gets sent. Would that be a true statement or just I'm trying to figure out the...
I think I understand. The consultation just means giving the tribes a seat at the table to offer their concerns or additional information that could be helpful to the project. The agencies still have full authority to move forward over the objections of the tribes. It's still very much up to the agency whether they want to permit the project. This should just hopefully help them make better decisions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the committee? Yes, sir, Delegate Weber.
So, I guess, are there places in this bill where you said that, the permit could move forward, but are there places in this bill where the DEQ or whatever entity that's seeking the permit would actually need consent from the tribe to move forward?
There's one place for burial permits, and we've made it very narrow such that only if the ancestors of an identified federally recognized tribe in the Commonwealth are being permitted to be moved, you would need the consent from the tribe about how that's done, because the tribes have particular spiritual and cultural practices that would need to be followed if those burials are going to be disinterred.
Further question, Mr. Chairman.
And DHR currently does that already. That's their standard practice.
Yes, sir.
So then, as I understand it, while they may consult,
It's, they're not necessarily given the authority to stop.
No, the tribes would not be able to veto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Delegate Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your first statement that you made, you mentioned that something to the effect development on government land that the federal government required. Is that all federal land?
Yes, sir. All federal land.
Every acre?
Every acre of federal land. Mm-hmm.
All right, Delegate Wood-Graves.
So this is basically an alignment bill, if I understand it correctly, to align the state practices with the federal government practices. Is that the version of it?
It's the same concept, but this is much narrower than the federal government's requirements. So the federal government has to consult the tribes on everything that could impact them. Mm-hmm. This is just a narrow list of permits that the state issues where the state would be required to consult with the tribes.
Okay, thank you.
And I follow up for myself. So that begs, could you go through the permits that we would have to apply for? I mean, I see VMRC listed down there too, so I'm assuming oysters, anything like that I wanted to do.
Right. So there's a list in the bill, and this list was developed in consultation with the state agencies. They suggested that these were the permits that were most likely to have tribal impacts. So that is, let's see, on page 7 of the bill, line 163, it talks about an action or project with tribal implications, and then it lists each of the permitting actions that would be subject. So, for example, environmental impact reports for major state projects, State Corporation Commission project reports, Virginia Department of Aviation environmental reports, environmental impact statements for oil or gas well drilling operations in tidewater, federal consistency determinations for the Federal Coastal Zone Management Act, groundwater withdrawals for groundwater withdrawals greater than 1 million gallons per day, the designation of historic districts, building structures, or sites as historic landmarks, burial permits for relocation of human remains, local government notifications for new and existing impoundment structures or dams, regulated impounding structure permits, and underwater recovery permits. Cave collection permits, I missed those, sorry.
All right, thank you. And Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of observations. I've had a chance to talk about this with several of the proponents, including Ms. Werkheiser, about this, and they have made considerable efforts to make this bill more palatable for me, and I appreciate that a great deal. It is still has the potential, in my judgment, to have a very wide-ranging potential effect on a variety of permitting processes with state agencies, a number of which that are listed there, a number of types of projects. Ms. Werkheiser and I talked about one project that without this has already been altered as a result of objections raised.
In federal consultation.
I'm sorry?
It was objections raised in the federal consultation process.
But it has altered that project as a result of that. It also includes a provision to establish a new position of ombudsman, in addition to the one that we've authorized in the other legislation. For these reasons, I just can't get myself comfortable yet with the legislation as it is this time, and I just want to let you know that.
Delegate, where would, sorry.
Hold on, let me just consult my counsel here.
Do you want to discuss?
Delegate Ware and I have been going back and forth, and there's further amendments that I think would take care of the focus, and I think we could also cut out the ombudsman position, and we could come back and discuss that in the future next year.
All right.
If that would be amenable to the.
Well, before we take that, we've got a few more people in the queue here. Delegate Phillicorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the patron for bringing this bill. I appreciate the education, the time that you've spent as well with so many of us, and I understand there was some concern with the Farm Bureau and agribusiness, and that everything's been worked out. So I appreciate your willingness to, per what Chairman Ware has said as well, just willing to work with us. I think ensuring that the tribes have a seat at the table is essential. I think this bill clearly does not allow tribes to veto any projects, as per the testimony we've heard today. I think it's a win-win for developers and for tribes as well. I can't imagine not having any consultation with the tribes and the tribes not having a seat at the table. And obviously, it works in the advantage of the developers as well, if they're to find out that there are concerns and that there's issues with regard to some of these projects, so that they could make a change earlier in the planning process. And so, for all those reasons, I strongly support the bill and would move to report at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. We have a few more people in the queue. Delegate Williams-Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition to Delegate Phillicorn, I too support the bill. I think that tribal land and tribal nations have been disrespected by this country for a very long time, and I think that consulting them, recognizing them, and respecting their land is the least that we can do. I know that a lot of times developers want to make money, and they've got their plan and they've got their outlines of things that they want to do, and sometimes it is disrespectful unintentionally to tribal land, and it doesn't take into consideration, they don't necessarily take into consideration other cultures, and I simply think that this bill would allow for that consideration in terms of taking into consideration other cultures, especially tribal nations and tribal land. So for that reason, I do support and share Delegate Phillicorn's request to make the motion at the appropriate time.
All right, one more person in the queue. Delegate Fowler. Actually, two more. Delegate Fowler.
Chairman. I just want to clarify, like, here in 163, we're having conversations about all these various things, and I want to make sure I heard you correctly that these things would impact basically everywhere in Tidewater, Virginia. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly, or not?
No, sir. One of the particular state actions that this would cover would be line 166, environmental impact assessments for oil or gas well drilling operations in Tidewater, Virginia, prepared pursuant to Virginia Code 1520. It's important to note that the tribes have defined areas of interest in the state. It's not the entire state. And in fact, I have maps here that show the tribal service areas, which align with the areas that the tribes are interested in.
We have infographics.
Sorry, it's right there. I'm sorry. Let me see if I got more.
Here, they can share. We'll share here.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, Delegate Ware, I really appreciate your thoughtfulness on this. I'd like to share with the committee one of the reasons we have pursued this bill, which is the top priority for Virginia's tribal nations this session, is because there was a project in Fluvanna County where the James River Water Authority proposed to build a pump station on top of Rassawek, the historic capital of the Monacan Indian Nation. It's on John Smith's map. They wanted to disinter the remains of the Monacan ancestors and build their pump station on top of an archaeological site that's being considered for National Historic Landmark status. The Monacan Indian Nation found out about this project very late, only because of federal consultation with the Army Corps of Engineers. When they found out, they raised objections. Over 12,000 members of the public and organizations representing hundreds of thousands of people across the country objected to that project and asked the Army Corps to deny it in the public interest. The James River Water Authority is now pursuing an alternative location, which will allow them to still get their water intake, but not at the expense of the cultural heritage and the resting places of the Monacan ancestors. So part of why we're doing this bill is so that the tribes can be involved in the earlier stages. In that case, DEQ permitted that project years before the Monacans even knew about it and had a chance to raise objections. And the Water Authority would save a lot of money and a lot of time if this bill had been in place.
All right, Delegate Lopez.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So at this point, would the patron want to make the ombudsman amendments?
Mr. Chairman, it's regarding the ombudsman, if that's a deal breaker, I think, I think the tribal chiefs would be okay with removing that from the bill, because the important thing is this consultation and to recognize the sovereignty of these tribal nations, and that's what we're all about. How it's done in the administration with an ombudsman or a secretariat or something like that really could be left up to the governor. But this is really the crux of it, and we have some further language that Delegate Ware, we've been going back and forth with Delegate Ware, that tightens it up a little bit. We could offer that as well, and council can explain that, which you haven't seen yet.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make just one statement, Stephen Atkins. I hope you view this in the light of the tribes helping the individuals, the entities make a more informed decision. I think as these consultations come up, I think we can help inform and ultimately whoever is seeking a consultation can make a better informed decision. And that's why we want to be at the table at the onset.
All right, thank you. Delegate Weber.
I had a follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to seek, I have no idea who, in regards to this question. Over the last 2 years, we have seen numerous pieces of legislation that affect all across the executive branch, from DEQ, across DEQ, DOE, Department of Natural Resources, all the environmental justice language, and all the environmental justice language had language that affected pretty much the tribes. I mean, any pretty much almost anybody you could think of. I remember one of Mark Keem's bills. I know, to be honest, like when it comes to this bill seems pretty extensive in that it's almost like a notification. If you're going to do something in this map, you got to tell somebody, and that's it. I mean, that would seem to be the easiest thing to do, right? DEQ, if you're going to issue a permit to something in here, you got to send somebody a notice.
Right.
That's it, right? And then that way you all can get organized, and if you don't like it, tell somebody. If you like it and you're fine with it, tell somebody. We had so many pieces of legislation. I'm just kind of curious as to how we still have this when, I don't know how many pieces of legislation that literally it did that. I mean, literally told DEQ, whoever, they need to inform all of these people that something's going to happen. I'm just curious as to how that legislation, to bring this forward now when we enacted this over last year was a big year too in that. I'm just trying to kind of, because I agree completely. I think everybody at this table agrees that if you're going to do something, they need it, people need to be notified. So I guess I don't know how to frame my correctly, but
it sounds like you're asking, are we already included in the environmental justice legislation? And
there you go.
Okay, so the distinction here is that the environmental justice legislation covers communities that have typically been oppressed, which certainly includes Native Americans. But the difference here is that we're talking about sovereign tribal nations that have been recognized by the federal government that have a political relationship with the Commonwealth. And so the Commonwealth owes the respect to the tribal nations to have a process for them. That's really what it comes down to. And this reflects commitments that the Commonwealth made in the Treaty of Middle Plantation in 1677, where you promised to consult with the tribes when the governor was taking actions that could affect them.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Williams Graves.
I just have a quick question on the ombudsman. Does the ombudsman position, and I know you said it was up for negotiation, but does that just simply provide a person to say this is the contact for if you're doing anything on these in these areas, this is the person that is designated instead of us trying to figure it out?
Oh, the tribal ombudsman is a position in the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office that helps state agencies interact with the tribes. So, and we had that position under Governor Northam. Your question about who to contact, the agencies right now have lists of who they're supposed to contact in which localities, and we've been working with them on that process the last few months. Mm-hmm.
Lopez.
Chairman. So beyond the Treaty of Middle Plantation, which is, we respect and have followed as with just the Thanksgiving tax every year.
Right.
The tribes in Virginia, the 7 recognized tribes, worked for decades to get federally recognized status beyond the treaty that we had with them. Now you have even stronger evidence of sovereignty. This was recognized by foreign nations when Chief Atkins went to England or Great Britain with then Governor Kane. They were recognized as a sovereign nation at that time. And now that we have actual federal recognition for these 7 tribes in Virginia, this is why this legislation is so vitally important, because it's unique from what Delegate Weber was talking about in terms of environmental justice. And so we're talking about a limited legislative language. We're talking about a limited ability to sort of receive information. And we're not talking about a veto. We're not talking about any kind of ability to muck up the works. We're simply talking about letting this sovereign, federally recognized tribe know about what's happening in their federally recognized backyard. And so if that's what this bill has done, and the Delegate Krizik has done amazing work working with all parties to get to this day, to get to this moment, makes complete sense to me why we should, at the appropriate time, move this bill.
Last word, Dr. Krizik.
No. All right, Mr. Chairman, I know we haven't, no one's made a motion to, or second, to get rid of the ombudsman, but I would certainly entertain that because I think it makes the bill more palatable. You're going to see it come back across from the Senate with it in. But if you're going to, if it doesn't have a chance, then I would understand. But this, as you heard from the chiefs, this is their number one priority. This is really about, I mean, I really feel this is about respect and getting them in there first and where they should be as sovereign nations. So I do what you tell me to do, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the amended languages requested by the patron regarding the ombudsman issue.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and properly seconded to remove, Lisa, can you? Is that number, page, line 19, I'm assuming?
Mr. Chairman, I believe, I haven't looked at this with a fine-tooth comb, but I believe you would essentially remove all of section 2.2-401.01 from the bill. That begins on line 16.
Yeah, I think there might be a few places and that it refers to it later.
I'll need
But
to read through the entire bill to make sure there's no language referencing the ombudsman.
Okay, so before we send council into all that, let's discuss the amendment. I understand that the nature of the amendment. Do we have any comments about the amendment? So we have an amendment properly in front of us. It's a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, move to report. The
All
amended
right,
language.
we have one more. We have one person. Did you were in the queue. Did you need to say anything about the bill?
No, I did not.
Okay, so we have a motion to report, it's properly seconded, and then we have a substitute motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to carry over and would like to speak to the bill.
All right. That him? Yep. We have a motion to carry over. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so that is debatable.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And while I very much appreciate the comments made and the attempt to adjust some of the concerns that have been brought forward, I think that this bill is one of those that is not quite mature yet, and that we need to spend additional time working through the details. And apologize if folks don't believe that, but I really do believe that we need to bring this forward and have early discussions and not allow that carryover to roll back.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Delegate Bolton.
Thank you. I believe that this is way beyond its time. The patron has been incredible with working with all the stakeholders, all of us, countless hours. And I think when you really think about how long the tribes have been waiting, it's long overdue. And I beg to differ. Putting it off and waiting till next year is nothing. And I will be opposing the motion to carry it over, and I wish we would report this bill now. But I understand there's a motion on the table.
All right, so we have a motion on the table that's properly seconded. It is a voice vote. All in favor of carrying the bill over, all in favor of carrying the bill over till next year, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
All right. Division, make sure. All in favor of carrying the bill over till next year? Okay. All right, thank you. The bill's carried over, but I will say that there's a second bite at the apple. When the Senate bill comes across, I need to digest this a little more. It is pretty expansive on the areas that you have to consult with. So we'll give it serious consideration when it comes across.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Delegate President. You have a simple bill? Now, when he's coming up to, there is a request to strike from Delegate Converse Fowler, House Bill 577. And all right, all in favor of striking House Bill 577. Is that a recorded vote? We'll do it in full. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to Delegate Kilgore.
Yes, this is a simple bill. It strikes out one line in a couple places. Basically, what this does, it's the legislatively gets us out of the regional greenhouse requirement. Top line, the reason I brought this bill, it doesn't effectively reduce carbon emissions. It results in rate hikes to Virginia families, and it limits our ability as Virginians to find free market solutions that actually work. If you look at this is a regional greenhouse gas initiative, RGGI. It claims to be a market-based effort to cap and reduce CO2 emissions. It's actually an artificial trading market that fails to do the one thing that it's put in place to do, reduce carbon emissions. There's no evidence that being involved in RGGI reduces carbon emissions. And if you look at a lot of reports, non-RGGI comparison states actually have reduced carbons even more than RGGI states. So the bottom line here is that RGGI shifts innovation, jobs, and entire industries to other states. So basically what I'm doing, I know that this bill has a huge budget impact, but just because some of these dollars goes to areas that we all want to fund, and frankly I'm in favor of some of them, that's something that we can do from the general fund. I think ultimately this bill has to go up to the appropriations. It may die up there because of the $95 million and $85 million to $95 million to housing community development, $85 million to DCR, $5,600,000 to DEQ. But that's something that we probably need to make. Those are decisions we need to make. Has a General Assembly and has the House of Delegates and Senate combined on how we want to fund some of these issues, and not to put a tax on our utilities and things of that nature, because all they did was just pass this on to their consumers. So basically, that's what the bill does. I know it can't get out of here without going to the appropriations. I think the governor has put in a budget amendment to reflect this, and that's the bill.
All right, thank you, Delegate Kilgore. Are there any questions from the committee for Delegate Kilgore? All right, and let's look to see if we have any. Okay, all right. Anyone in the room would like to speak in favor of the bill? Sure. I'm sorry, Delegate Lopez?
Yeah, so what we're doing here is it's been subtle and now it's overt, trying to get rid of the RGGI.
Right.
Despite the, everybody, first off, I just want to quibble with the costs and the emissions targets. It's only been in effect for a year. Sorry, wrong time. I guess I'll speak to the bill at the appropriate time. This is time for questions, correct? Yes. All right, never mind. I'll speak to the bill.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, and anyone in the room like to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Brett Vassy, President of the Virginia Manufacturers Association. We support the bill. Many of you have probably already made up your mind, but I want to give you just a couple of facts to think about. Number one, what we've learned in the last year is Virginia now ranks 16th best state in the country for CO2 emissions. 16th best. That's without any of this in place. It's because of the conversion of our existing fleet. Second, particulate matter, we rank 15th. That's a byproduct of reducing our emissions. And then third, as far as energy usage, we're below the national average. We're ranked 20th in the country. what I'm trying to convey to you is even the SCC has acknowledged that this does not have an impact on lowering carbon. That is in a recent case. It's a judge's decision, a statement, not mine. And what it does do, though, is it subjects ratepayers. Ours are the largest consumers. We have the greatest at risk in transferring these costs, where it is not determined on a regular basis what we're going to pay. It was supposed to be a few cents. That's a quote from our former secretary, a few cents per month. And it went from $7 to $14 a metric ton in 1 year. And now they're projecting by 2030 it's going to be $24 a ton, when we all know that the social cost of carbon, to the delegates' favorite topic, is $1 to $7. So we're just, math matters in this case. It's time to reset this, look at a different way of doing it that is more stable and protects the ratepayer. Thank you, Mr.
Chairman, a question for the.
Yes, sir. Delegate Lopez.
So right now we're talking about over $100 million. I think it's around $277 million we've gotten, above $100 million more than what our estimates were in just 1 year. And that money's being used for coastal resiliency and flooding issues. It's being used for low-income energy efficiency programs. It's being used for inland flooding issues. And these communities have gotten money now for the first time ever because they've been so difficult to get this fund. How do you replace that funding?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Delegate, I'm sure there are a variety of ways. We're not here to opine on how to fund flood mitigation. What we are here to tell you is you've made our point for us that we were promised this would be negligible, and it's already $140 million over its original estimate. There is no cap on this. There is no relief for taxpayers. This is something that you have to address because it'll just keep proliferating. Don't have an answer for the flood mitigation. There may be other resources.
Yes, sir. Delegate Lopez.
We always knew that Dominion was going to, do this through a rider, and it was always going to go back and be paid for by the ratepayer. You're not the right person to ask this question to. I'll save that for another time. Okay, thanks.
All right. Delegate Wilt, question for the speaker, or?
I get Mr. Vassy.
Yes,
How
sir.
many, well, it's a two-part question. How many hundreds of millions of dollars were we just talking about, and where did that come from?
The expectation this year is a little over $280 million to be spread among all of the ratepayers. And it is based on your is basically allocated based upon your consumption or as a ratepayer. So you'll see it on your bill. If you look on your bill, there's actually a line item now that says Reggie. And so whether you're commercial, residential, or industrial, you all pay a share of the roughly $280 million. And that number is expected to continue to go up every year.
All right. Any other questions from the committee? All right. Anyone else in the room like to speak in favor of the bill? All right, we do have in the virtual room people signed up to speak against the bill on House bill. So is Brent Hunsinger in the room.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify on House Bill 1301. Friends of the Rappahannock does oppose this bill. To this time, we have not seen a viable plan to replace the funding from Reggie that goes to the Community Flood Preparedness Fund. This bill would directly affect the localities in the Rappahannock River watershed and their ability to access needed funding for resilience planning and projects that stem from the Preparedness Fund. For this reason, we hope you will oppose this bill. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Pat Calvert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pat Calvert. I'm speaking on behalf of Virginia Conservation Network. We also oppose this, and primarily, from my standpoint, is because of the Flood Preparedness Fund. While some may not wish to opine on how that fund is to be funded, this works and it's successful. And so we think if there's no other substitute, then this is the rational, reasonable way to go forward. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. And Miss Lena Lewis.
Hi, I'm Lena Lewis with the Nature Conservancy, and we oppose this bill. I think we heard earlier in this meeting that if RGGI works correctly, the amount of funds should actually go down every year. And I'll just speak to the other part of the revenue, which goes to the Low-Income Energy Efficiency Program, which should create benefits for all Virginians. Helping low-income households waste less energy supports local jobs and energy efficiency. It reduces air pollution from energy generation, and it reduces pressure to convert rural lands to solar development. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we also have the SCC in the room. If there are any questions for the SCC, they are standing by for questions. So if anyone on the committee has any questions. All right, so now we turn back to the committee. Anyone in the room to speak in favor of? I'm sorry. Yes. Oppose.
Walton Shepard with the NRDC. We're opposed, and we would ask the committee to consider the record of RGGI in other states. This has been underway for over about a decade in more than 1 in 5 American states, and look to their results. Emissions were reduced under the program by 50% since the commencement of the program, and energy costs have decreased in those states due to investments in energy efficiency and lower fuel cost renewables. And I do want to correct the record on one item. The SCC did not opine in a case decision that this would make no difference in emissions reductions. The SCC themselves can clarify that record, but the program literally just got underway, so I'm not sure that the SCC would make that statement. I'm quite sure they did not, just to correct the record. Thank you.
Okay, and anyone else in the room to speak against?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Bob Shippey with Sierra Club, and associate myself with Walton's comments. And if you vote to eliminate this program, you're basically voting to eliminate a government program that's working way better than we expected. So just want to have you wrap your head around that. By definition, emissions do go down, and by definition, the costs do go down over time. So I would really recommend that you defeat this bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And anyone else in the room?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Peggy Sander for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I want to first associate myself with the comments of my colleagues who've spoken in opposition to this bill. And I would note in particular how important it is that Virginia now has in RGGI a program that provides meaningful funding for the coastal resiliency concerns that we are facing in Virginia. Without this funding, we are exposing our coastal communities and other communities with great risk of harm and no realistic alternative for help. So do hope you will oppose the bill. Thank you very much.
All right, anyone else in the room to speak against the bill? All right, we'll turn Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yeah, I have to completely agree with what the environmental and renewable energy sector has said about RGGI being part of an overall package of work that we've done over the last few years to really embrace the jobs and the economic development and the from embracing renewable energy. And so I'm worried about sort of the direction that something like this would take us in. I'm worried about the fact that, the stats are out there. It's like, you've got existing RGGI states have seen their emissions drop 90% faster than the rest of the country. And then if you're talking about public health, you're talking about a $5.7 billion in public health benefits. You've got reduced air pollution, you've got fewer asthma attacks, you got fewer health problems, fewer heart attacks, fewer missed school days, fewer missed work days. And so the idea of taking what we just put into place, which is, and if you take the VCEA and you take RGGI, we've gone from being one of the worst states in America for addressing climate change and dealing with issues of recurrent flooding to now one of the best. And that was done in 19 months. And so we've seen the benefits of how this works. We've seen how this helps localities. We've seen how this helps the coast, which is, as we all know, the second worst or second most susceptible community or region for flooding, secondly only behind New Orleans. And so the idea of taking the good work we've done and reversing it so quickly before we see those benefits, before we see all of the reductions in emissions, just makes no sense to me. So I really hope we don't support this bill.
Delegate Williams-Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just speaking to the bill. I'm coming from a community that floods with 5 drops of rain, where it only used to flood with 10 drops of rain. And we have several flooding occurrences. We've had folks who have lost cars, areas that have flooded where folks have not been required to have flood insurance. And so to have this dedicated funding mechanism to assist with that and with the coastal resiliency issues, I think is very important. And when we start taking away dedicated funding and throwing it into the general fund, I think we're on a slippery slope. And so for those reasons, I can't support this bill. I also agree with Delegate Lopez in terms of not even having an opportunity to see what the real outcome and what the real benefit would be over a period of time. So I think that's something else to consider. But the last thing I'll just say is if we don't address this and we don't have dedicated funding for it and the issues are costly issues, we're not going. There's some areas that aren't going to be around because they're going to be underwater. And so it won't matter what emissions and all that other stuff is because they just won't be there.
All right, thank you. And then, Delegate Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just speaking to the bill. To me, I just wanted to make a couple of points. And so the question is how serious are we about addressing this larger issue that I think we all acknowledge is going to have severe consequences, not just for the country, but in particular for Virginia. And if we are serious about it, it's not lost on me that what we've been trying to do is use market-based forces in order to be able to achieve this in the most efficient and effective way possible. And that's kind of the beauty of what we're trying to go ahead and do with RGGI. I also think it's very rare when we are able to have dual benefits of reducing carbon, but also plowing those proceeds back into our own people. That was kind of the beauty of kind of the Amazon deal that we had, right? Is we were investing in that urban development project and the money was coming back to heighten our infrastructure and invest in our people. That's exactly what we're doing here, whether we're talking about flood resiliency or whether we're talking about weatherization. But I guess the last point that I just wanted to go ahead and make is, if not this, what's our plan? And I think what concerns me most is that if there's a better way to do this, let's debate that. Let's figure that out. But to leave a gaping hole in our budget, a gaping hole in our climate resiliency plans, that gives me great cause for concern, and I hope we don't move forward with this bill.
All right, thank you. And Delegate Roberts.
Thank you. There is a cost associated with all of this stuff, and that cost is put on the burden of ratepayers, of whoever pays the $280-something million or whoever money that goes into RGGI and then comes back out. This is not just a tax. This is a cost. With the advent of technology, the advent of science, everything is getting significantly more fuel efficient, getting cleaner. I mean, that's why we had to index the gas tax, is because we're not collecting as much gas tax because cars are getting significantly more fuel efficient. And so when we start adding these costs onto the average citizen, they start looking at their bill that will have RGGI on it and saying, okay, with the cost of food going up, with the cost of living going up, with inflation, their checks are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'd just like to point out that when somebody says this is just a tax or this is a cost, it has real effect on everybody, not just people of lower income, median income. When you have inflation flying as fast as it is now, it affects literally everybody. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
All right, and next in the queue is Delegate Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know a lot of this has already been said, but for many reasons, I'm strongly opposed to this bill, and I think it's seriously dangerous. Everything I believe we can say is all that we do here is important. And, when you think about this bill in particular and the progress that we have made and can make when it comes to public health, what is the price tag? What is it worth? You're talking about the air that we breathe. It's really scary. And I know obviously this session is different for many of us, and we expected it to be that. But, when you think about the regions that are facing flooding, as you have heard and we're all aware, their future, if there is a future, is at stake. We discussed the success that other states have had with Reggie. It's premature. But it not only is it premature, it's putting Virginians at risk, future communities, and again, individuals. And, I just beg you not to take us back, and I would urge a no vote on HB 1301.
All right, and the last in the queue is Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Note a couple of things. When Reggie was proposed, there were a lot of us who were skeptics about it. I've seen little since then to, in my judgment, justify it. I would note a couple of things. We've heard a lot about what is and can be accomplished by Reggie from a health standpoint and from a geologic standpoint and flooding standpoint. I would remind us of what the current president's carbon guy said, and John Kerry said that the United States in toto, the entirety, everything, all 50 states is 10%, creates 10% of the carbon. Extrapolate that down, and somebody else will have to do the math back of the envelope, but it's whatever our percent of the country's 10% of the world's carbon comes from the United States. So I think we've got to, all these pretty expansive claims as to what we're doing to protect health and to address these climate issues, they're pretty expansive. And so I think they go beyond what we can clearly justify in fact. That's part of the reason why many of us were skeptics about Reggie at the outset. It's why I continue to be. I'm also not unaware of the fact that this remains a bicameral legislature. What we do here will have to be considered down the hall. I don't think we're going to turn the world on its axis tonight. But with that said, I will be supporting the legislation.
Move to report. So we have a motion to report, properly seconded. It would have to be report and refer to appropriations, House Bill 1301.
Oh, I thought I had you.
Bill 1301 reports 6-4 to report and refer to appropriations. Delegate Hodges, sorry. All right, you have two bills in front of us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee.
Which bill would you like to take up first, Delegate Hodges?
Here. All right, let's go with 947 first. That's the first in front of me. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Delegate Hodges.
Thank you. And y'all thought you were rid of me. Had one bill earlier, and I have two more. We do have a substitute, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a substitute. Do I have a motion on the substitute? Second. All right, all in favor say aye. All right, we have a substitute. before us?
Oh, great. I'll get one too. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Substitute just conforms with what's moving through the Senate, which is really going through fairly quickly from what I understand. And what this bill actually does, it authorizes the Virginia Resources Authority to establish a revolving loan fund to make short-term loans to planning district commissions. So when you look at, what planning commissions do, we're all very familiar with the good work that they do in our communities. And to advance what they do, they often do this by leveraging state and federal grant dollars. However, these grants often require expenditures of those funds to be made before requesting reimbursement from the funding agency. So that we actually ran into this in the Middle Peninsula, where the PDC was awarded a DOT grant for $2 million to study, redesign, re-engineer more than 100 publicly owned working waterfront sites used by the seafood industry. And that's, of course, a huge economic impact within our region. Of course, the cash flow, the PDC did not have the kind of cash flow to administer that grant. So we're not able to do that. And of course, those dollars can actually end up in another state, and we're losing out on being able to leverage some significant dollars in our communities. So that's all it does, and this would need to go to appropriations because we do have a budget amendment to be able to back this up as well. I believe it would. Did this get a letter? Yeah, I thought it did. So
Okay.
that's all it does.
So the bill's been presented. Do we have any questions for the patron? Okay. Do we have?
I guess, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just to make sure I understood, so this could be used for a whole range of things. So we're not
Yes, sir.
talking about
Sure.
resiliency, we're talking about almost anything that you could imagine a planning district commission would be involved in.
Yes, sir. Yes, Delegate Bolo. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, multiple planning district commissions can leverage these dollars, and and when those dollars are paid back, the money stays in that fund, so you can continue to just leverage more and more and more. So it would potentially grow.
Okay, any other questions for the patron? Yes, Williams Grace.
Low interest, no interest, how are we?
Low interest, actually, that was changed. It was originally 1%, and I believe that was changed to, on the Senate side, and I would have to find that, to require expenditure for aggressive reimburse, public support. Yeah, they shall establish guidelines for administration. Low interest loans by the authority shall be based on guidelines established from the administration of loan funds and based on prevailing short-term interest rates.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question about the authority. And I guess if the authority is ready to take on this responsibility, if you understand what I'm saying.
We've had good feedback from VRA.
Yes, sir.
There you are. Didn't see everything. Thank you. Is that a yes? Yeah.
Any other questions of the patron on the bill? And I don't think we have anyone signed up virtually. So anyone in the room like to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, sir.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. I'm David Blunt with the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions. Certainly appreciate Delegate Hodges bringing this bill forward and working with the Middle Peninsula PDC to do so. And we're glad to support the bill, particularly on behalf of the smaller PDCs that have smaller budgets, as Delegate Hodges has said, where cash flow may be a problem. So we encourage you to report the bill.
All right, thank you. Question?
Yeah, question for the patron.
Yes, sir.
So the loans are made to or for planning district commissions? So
Correct. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, the mission of the planning district commissions are defined in the code and their purpose and the work that they do in our communities.
Okay,
So that's already defined.
If the authority loans money to the planning commissions, How does it get paid back?
through the grant, because when the grant is awarded, oftentimes funds have to be given to administer that grant before they're actually reimbursed by the grant funder. So it comes back.
So
it's a wash.
So essentially, this is a stopgap until the grant money arrives.
Correct. It's just for cash flow.
Okay.
Any other questions for the patron? Yes, sir. All right, we've got a motion to report and properly seconded. It was a substitute.
Yes, substitute.
All right, so the motion is to, yes, and it needs to be referred to appropriations. So we have a motion properly seconded, report and refer with a substitute to appropriations, House Bill 947. All those in favor? Open the board. Thank you. Okay, that bill reports 10-0 to send to appropriations. Thank you. And the next bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 1322. There also is a substitute on that. They're fairly simple, though. Try to make them easy, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion to move the substitute. Have a second? All right, substitutes, all in favor of the substitute, say aye. All right, substitute is before us. Delegate Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've all talked about flooding. We've all talked about resiliency tonight, and this really tries to address that issue with living shorelines. Living shorelines are defined in the code, and they are the preferred method for flooding. Fortunately, they are also very expensive at $650 a linear foot. So if you're looking at this room, that's probably about 25 feet. Put a dollar value on that, you're looking at probably between $16,000 and $17,000. So if you have waterfront property as wide as this room, the living shorelines will cost you that much. So multiply that just on a 75-foot lot, the cost of it. So what we're looking at is when you look at the definition of living shorelines, it's fairly tight, but it has in there other structures and organic materials. So what we did is we defined that. We've worked with the environmental community. We worked with a number of folks to come up with a definition of other structural and organic materials. So when you look down there and look at this definition, it specifies you have to have the added protection and wave energy. It also talks about rock, concrete, oyster strike concrete. They love concrete. I know over granite. Strike it any day of the week over that. Wood fiber, oyster shells. It also gets into geotextiles as well. When we have the science and it's proven that these structures actually promote habitat, oysters, grass, and bring down the cost tremendously. And in some of these, we've seen it can bring down the cost, depending on where you are, up to 80%. So what we're looking at ways for folks to be able to short their property for resiliency, have a living shoreline, and improve water quality and get more projects done for protection. So it's fairly simple, and that's what this bill actually does. We've worked with a number of folks. I believe we have peace in the valley, which we like to see.
All right, so anyone on the committee have any questions for the delegate?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
All right, so as I understand the delegate, you are adding other structural and organic materials.
That's already in there. We're defining that in the
So
bill.
you're defining other structural, could be including rock and concrete?
Rock, concrete, wood fiber, oyster shells, and or geotextiles.
So I could have a living shoreline with a concrete wave break.
Well, it would also have to go through the general permit. It'd have to qualify under the general permit to be able to provide habitat in how it's designed, and have to go through VMRC to be able to get that approval. You can't just throw rock out there. That's not going to be a living shoreline. Has to be designed, has to go through the general permit and VMRC. But these are the materials that can be used in the design of the living shoreline. So you're not limited to just those materials when it's designed.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? All right, so let's go. We have a couple in the virtual room, and I'll
Yes, this is Bob Kerr. I'm the Division Director at the Hampton Roads Office of Wetland Studies and Solutions. We're an engineering and environmental consulting firm throughout Virginia. We work on these types of projects, and this will help provide definitions of the materials that these devices can be built from and allow flexibility to homeowners as well as businesses to find cost-effective solutions. There are types of projects in other states that right now do not meet the definition in Virginia, and that's one of the innovative things that we'd like to see come to Virginia. We don't manufacture any of this. We simply do the design work, but we feel this is a very favorable solution.
All right, thank you. And Louis is in the room. Louis Lawrence.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission currently administers the only financing program in the Commonwealth for living shorelines. So we have more experience dealing directly with constituents on a daily basis than anybody else. And we hear that over and over and over from constituents that cannot afford $650 a linear foot for stone. We need choices. Expanding the definition will bring those choices, and it'll bring more innovation into the marketplace.
All right, thank you. And anyone in the room to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Peggy Sander for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. As Delegate Hodges has indicated, living shorelines are a really critical tool for Virginia in addressing and protecting shorelines in the face of sea level rise and other climate events. I think this bill recognizes the importance of living shorelines, and we want to particularly thank him for his thoughtful consideration of the concerns that we expressed to him as are reflected in an amended form in the substitute bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the room? We do have some questions, it looks like. Delegate Weber?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions. Yes, sir. All right, Delegate Hodges. The stated purpose of the bill is to give other options for living shorelines?
Correct. It expands the materials.
Now, is that because under the current permit process, these materials are not allowed?
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, it's because of the definition in the living shorelines. It really doesn't elaborate on these materials, so it's unclear in the current definition of living shorelines. So this expands that definition. So when the folks at VIMS and when they evaluate these projects, they can then look at it and say, these are the materials that can be used, because it's not clear in the current definition.
So has VIMS denied a project because somebody used concrete in their living shoreline?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure VIMS is not the permitting agency. Those would go through VMRC. But I would think that, and they are here and can speak to that. But I know that folks would like to have projects that would be approved that don't fit this definition. I know there are some things on the market, Fleximat, which actually rolls out, and it's actually concrete embedded in it under the current definition. It doesn't fit in this current definition at the way the code is right now, but under the new definition, it would qualify.
Okay.
And I know of one project. It's creating 2,000 more square feet of grass, critters, and it's great habitat.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The reason I ask these questions is I'm trying to wrap my head around the problem that you are trying to solve.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. The problem is it's unclear in the current definition if what we're adding are included in other structural materials. Folks would now say, no, it's not included as other structural materials. So we've got everybody on board to be able to use what we've listed, and it would then qualify. It's also going to depend on the design and so forth as well. You can't just go and throw things out there and make it work. You're going to have a design, go through the general permit, and go through VMRC to make it work.
All right, Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard numerous times the dollar amount $650 a foot. If you're buying off of me to do these alternatives, I'm going to charge you $649 a foot. I mean, how do you know you're going to say it's going to be a lot cheaper?
And we have the coastal engineer on here, but we've actually compared some of the projects, working with the coastal engineer, and have those right here, where it's currently, there's an estimate of $650 a linear foot. An oyster reef with sand and plants drops it down to $466 a linear foot. A Fleximat down to $436. An Envirolock system, $180 a linear foot, and a Natrix system, $130 a linear foot. So these are things that are on the market currently. They promote habitat, they promote critters and grass and improve water quality, but they do not fall under the definition of a living shoreline currently. So we're trying to give folks the tools to do the right thing instead of moving towards a hardened structure, which is not good for water quality. And we want to move in the right way to give folks the tools to be able to do what's right, protect water quality, and have resiliency as well.
All right, Delegate Hodges, let's go ahead. And any more questions? Do we fully understand the bill?
Move to report with a substitute.
All right, so we have a motion to report with the substitute and properly seconded, House Bill 1322. Vote on the voting board, please. Congratulations, Delegate Hodges, 2 for 2 today, 10-0 reported with a substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, we keep plowing through the docket, and now we are to the delegates that sit on this board, and we'll work right down. The first one that I see, Delegate Ware, House Bill 1200.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to work from my seat if that's
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 1200, and the genesis of this bill comes from a mega landfill project very close to the district I represent. In fact, probably, I was going to say a long golf drive, but it's probably a short golf drive from the district I represent. And it has brought attention to landfills and landfill siting and a variety of the effects of the large-sized landfills that we authorize in the code. And one of the concerns that has been raised by a number of people that I represent is what are the potential effects to the private wells that are close by. And both the Board of Supervisors and the school board of the district in the county that I live in, Powhatan County, both requested that we bring a bill that would bring protection to private wells commensurate with what is already in the code in the protection of public water supplies and intake or reservoir. Currently in the code, we protect public water supplies by saying that they can't be within 1 mile upgradient of any existing surface or groundwater public water supply intake or reservoir, or within 3 miles upgradient of any existing surface or groundwater public water supply intake or reservoir. In a rural community, as many of you know, a significant portion of the population gets their drinking water from private wells rather than public systems. And thus they are not explicitly protected by this legislation. It's one of 7 current stated things limiting the siting of a landfill. That, in short, is what my bill would provide the same protection. 1 mile upgradient from private wells would likewise be protected in the same fashion. And that's essentially what the bill does. There may be folks who would want to expand on that, but that's the rationale to provide equitable protection for rural private wells.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions for the delegate? And we do have folks signed up virtually. Looks like we have 2 signed up to speak in favor of. Pat Calvert.
Sir, Mr. Chair, Pat Calvert again on behalf of Virginia Conservation Network. Thank you to Delegate Ware for bringing this important bill forward. We certainly support it and hope that the subcommittee will find likewise.
All right, and then Betty Myers, please. Not here. All right, so then we have anyone else in the room to speak in favor of this bill?
Thank you, Chair and Subcommittee, for allowing me to speak today. I represent several communities that are in support of this bill. I'm with Virginia for Conservations and Community Rights, and we work with many of the communities: Loudoun, Nelson, Chesterfield, Hampton, Newport News, Waynesboro, Pulaski, Cumberland, Culpeper, Richmond, and Powhatan. And I want to thank Delegate Lee Ware for bringing this forward for us. Knowing your time is limited, I was sent to be the voice of these communities to ask for you to support House Bill 1200. VCCR would like to share why House Bill 1200 is so important to us. There are 60 rural counties who depend on private drinking well water out of the 95 counties in Virginia. We have an engineering firm that has examined scientific studies produced by government-funded research and has confirmed yet again why modern dry tomb landfills technology will always fail and should be expected to impact our groundwater. An examination of the best available landfill liners concluded that brand new state-of-the-art liners of high-density polyethylene HDPE can be expected to leak at the rate of 10 to 20 gallons per acre per day. Even if installed with the very best and the most expensive quality control procedures. This rate of leakage is caused by the pinholes during manufacturing and by the holes created when the seams are welded together during the landfill construction. Landfill liners are rolled out like huge carpet and welded together side by side to create continued field of plastic. The examination of the actual landfill liners revealed that even in the best seams contain holes. In addition to the leakage caused by the pinholes and failed seams, scientific evidence indicates that HDPE, the preferred liner for landfills, allows for these toxic chemicals to pass through quite readily. And there's a list of solvents that I can't really pronounce very well, but there's quite a list that penetrate HDPE in 1 to 13 days. These studies are based on a 100 mil liner, and what's being proposed in Cumberland County is a 60 mil single liner. So we also, in this bill, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, also addresses double liners for these landfills that are being proposed.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room to speak in favor of the bill?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Trip Pollard with Southern Environmental Law Center. Delegate Ware explained the bill perfectly well. This bill just extends the protection we currently give to public drinking water supplies to help better protect the drinking water of people who rely on wells.
All right, thank you. And in the virtual room, we have one to speak against, Ms. Tyree.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman Ware, ladies and gentlemen, members of the committee. My name is Eureka Tyree, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Cumberland County Board of Supervisors. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to discuss HB 1200. Respectfully, I oppose this bill and must say that if it is approved, it would threaten the economic viability of our county by attempting to prevent the Green Ridge landfill project from moving forward. I have lived in Cumberland County my entire life, and my family has been here for many generations. I was elected to serve the people of Cumberland County, and this landfill project was one of the most important issues during my election. Ms. Gonzalez will give you the details to why this bill directly targets this project. But first, I want to share with you why this development is critical to the citizens that I represent. Cumberland is a county of approximately 10,000 citizens. 80% of our school children receive free or reduced lunch. But based on our poverty level, all of our students are eligible. Over 70% of our annual operating revenue comes directly from the backs of our citizens via their real estate and property tax. Cumberland does not have much business revenue to draw from. We don't even have a stoplight or a grocery store in the county. The previous board approved the agreement with Greenridge to develop another avenue to generate revenue for the county and give our citizens relief. The new board I am a part of agrees with the critical need and supports this project. Our county needs other sources of revenue, and our citizens cannot sustain the requirement solely on their own. There has been much miscommunication and criticism of the landfill from people who live outside of Cumberland County, but I am here to speak for the underrepresented population of Cumberland County. I am here to tell you that the residents,
Thank
the
you, Ms.
majority
Tyree.
of the
Your time's up. Thank you, Ms. Tyree. And who else? More B, I think your name was mentioned. You'd like to speak against the bill?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Supervisor Tyree, for joining us this afternoon. We oppose House Bill 1200 B. Gonzalez with Green Ridge Recycling and Disposal Facility in Cumberland County. I applaud Delegate Chairman Ware so much for supporting and his constituents in Powhatan, but this project is in Cumberland County, and Cumberland County supports this project. This is probably the fourth or fifth legislative session where we've had bills introduced targeting this project. Not one has moved forward. This one comes at it in a much more creative way. I want to remind everyone that we have met with the opponents of this project several times. We've changed the scope of this project from 2 fills to 1, from 650 acres to 240 acres of fill, 3 acres of wetlands to 0 acres of wetlands. But the most important part of this bill, and the part that we oppose the most, is the 1 mile limit. Virginia's existing 500-foot buffer from a private well is part of the solid waste regulations, and a stakeholder panel of environmental and industry experts met in 2021 to specifically discuss this, and they kept this. So for the this 500-foot buffer. So with that, I know my time is limited. We oppose this bill. We have letters from multiple localities that support this bill, including the Central Virginia Waste Management Authority, which includes Powhatan, as well as 19 other local governments that support this bill.
Thank you. And next, against the bill? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm Mike Lawless from Blacksburg, Executive Vice President with Draper Aiden Associates. We're an environmental engineering firm that specializes in solid waste. And solid waste management in general, and landfills in particular, are already one of the most highly regulated activities in the Commonwealth. I was a member of the regulatory advisory panel for the most recent proposed regulation. We worked in May and June with DEQ to revise the regulations, and this specific issue of the 500-foot buffer from private wells was discussed by the regulatory advisory panel, which was a diverse group that included waste professionals as well as environmentalists, including one of the members of the opposition to the Green Ridge project. And the panel reached a consensus that 500 feet was consistent and was protective with human health and the environment. It's consistent with our neighboring states, and it has also been protective of human health and the environment for over the last 33 years.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Tim Torres, and I speak on behalf of the VWIA, who represent the private solid waste companies in Virginia who operate state-of-the-art landfills in stringent compliance with local, state, and federal regulations. Those regulations include multifaceted requirements for protecting human health and the environment, including preventing contamination of local groundwater sources. Besides the fact of what's said before about the experts saying that 500 feet was enough, 1 mile setback is not supported by data that shows the Marl landfill ever caused groundwater contamination of a private well outside the current regulatory setback. And in development of the landfill, there is significant time between land acquisition and DEQ site approval. HB 1200 prohibits a new landfill within a mile of any existing private well, not at land purchase or during the initial DEQ permit process, but at final permit approval. After purchasing the site, the applicant will spend millions of dollars during the local land use and DEQ approval process. All that investment will be lost, including potentially substantial economic development to the local host community if someone to install a well right before final DEQ approval. So we oppose HB 1200 for 1200 for these reasons.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak against the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Preston Bryan on behalf of Virginia Municipal League. Solid waste management facilities, as we know, are necessary. They undergo both the local level and the state level an extraordinary siting, permitting process. The 1 mile setback is effectively perhaps a moratorium on landfills in Virginia. Virginia Municipal League opposes the bill.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else to speak against the bill? All right, so last word, Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll note a couple of things. One is we've heard that there's been discussion of the current 500-foot setback. What we have here is a distinction. I'm asking for equity for private wells as is compared to public groundwater or surface water intakes or reservoir. That's, in essence, that's what I'm looking for. I recognize Cumberland's challenges economically. Ms. Tyree makes a good case, and it is no doubt important for the county of Cumberland, which is challenged economically. I would note simply that my county faces all the downsides. Anything that may happen on groundwater, the access, the main highway comes through the main thoroughfare in my county. I would also offer that if the committee is interested but would like to see the number reduced from a mile, I certainly would be prepared to make an amendment to reduce that if that made it more palatable to the majority of the subcommittee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that.
Thank you. The committee operates by motions. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a? We have a motion and a second to gently lay the bill on the table. That is non-debatable. All right, the bill is gently laid on the table. Mr. Chairman, 9-1. Thank you. All right, we'll move right now to Delegate Wilt. I think we're plowing through this agenda. Delegate Wilt. No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, before you is House Bill 1267. There is a substitute.
All right, so we have a substitute. Do we have a motion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, so the substitute is properly before us. Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, House Bill 1267 addresses an issue that we dealt with last year, and we passed legislation that required the State Air Pollution Control Board to adopt emission standards that match those of California. However, California is in the process of adopting the more stringent Advanced Clean Cars 2 standard that ultimately leads to a complete ban on new sales of internal combustion engines by 2025. Subsequently, our Air Board met in December to approve regs that automatically adopt those stricter standards as soon as California does, because we've hitched our wagon to California. Notably, this was done without the full opportunity for public comment or following the Administrative Process Act, because the original bill exempted that requirement. So Mr. Chairman, committee members, all we're asking for, we're not eliminating that action was taken last year. We're asking for basically a 5-year reprieve to allow primarily the industry to catch up, and with infrastructure and so forth. So that's that's the gist of the bill.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the delegate? Yes, sir. Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this legislation would reopen the regulatory process that we established with Virginia's Clean Car Standards.
and it's just delaying it 5 years from 2025 to 2030. I'm under the impression that these standards are helping to accelerate the deployment of EVs and EV infrastructure across the state. Yes, but doesn't this bill sort of inject some significant uncertainty in terms of for the market? Because if we pass this legislation, we said, all right, market, we're about to start doing this. Here's our plan. We want to do it by 2025, and now we're saying we're going to delay this 5 years. Does not that inject market uncertainty in the entire process?
Mr. Chairman, I would say to the delegate, I think the market is going to respond appropriately, and that's what we're seeing. The demand for electric vehicles continues to go up, but the challenge, and it's interesting, Mr. Chairman, I've heard that somewhat that level of argument or from that direction that what was done is forcing these vehicles to be bought, and if we don't do that, then the vehicles aren't going to come to Virginia, and they're puts us at a disadvantage. But I beg to differ. I think the consumers are driving the demand, and I actually have a flyer somewhere here that part of that, they quote auto dealers and saying, hey, if we had more of these, we could sell them. Mr. Chairman, that's not nothing that a mandate from our government is going to fix. The free market's going to drive that demand, and it already is. And what we're seeing, the bottom line for that is the auto producers are not making enough vehicles. So that's a long way around.
All right. Any other questions from the committee? All right. Yeah, it's getting late. We've got a few people in the virtual room. We have one that wants to speak in favor of it. Ron Jenkins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'd like to thank Delegate Wilt for bringing this forward. This would give our members, their small business owners, a little opportunity, extended time to make the investments in their businesses that they need. These trucks are a key to many of our small family-owned businesses in the forest products industry. And so I think Delegate Wilt was exactly correct when he stated that this would just give us time to catch up. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Anyone in the room would like to speak in favor of this bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here before you today. My name is David McGowan. I'm API, American Petroleum Institute Southeast Region Director. I want to thank Delegate Wilt for serving as a patron on this legislation and his leadership on this issue. API supports market-driven transition to electric vehicles, but is very concerned by the mandate imposed on the citizens of the Commonwealth. We believe strongly that government should not be picking winners and losers and should instead let Virginia consumers choose the best vehicle for themselves and their family. We support House Bill 1267 and urge the committee to favorably report this legislation. A delay in the implementation will enable the state to conduct a transparent rulemaking process, provide manufacturers time to work through computer chip, material shortages, and other supply chain issues, as well as develop the infrastructure needed to support electric vehicle deployment. Thank you very much for your consideration tonight, and we urge your support of this legislation.
Thank you. Delegate Robert, do you have a question for the speaker?
The patron and the speaker, whomever. Delegate Wilt, did you mention that currently now a lot of what we do is tied to what California does?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the whole piece of legislation that was passed last year was directly tied into the California.
So I guess my question is, if California changes, we change too?
That's the way it's written, yes, sir. And that's the danger. That's the unintended consequence that we see. When we did this last year, we were talking about the whatever it was called. I'm sorry, the Advanced Clean Cars 1. That was the standard. So we said, okay, we're going to adopt that. Well, now California, it's just a matter of time that they're working on the Clean Cars 2. That completely bans vehicles that run on fossil fuels. And the way the whole thing's set up is when that happens, we roll into it automatically.
So automatically, so that means our citizens don't have our voice to decide whether we want to do it or not. It just happens.
That's exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Lopez. Question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the population of California is 40 million people. All right. And there is a history going back to the catalytic, like lead in gasoline, that the auto industry was always very concerned about what happened in California with the California state legislature. Because if the California state legislature decided to do something, well then, because they're a market of 40 million people, everyone in the country would have to conform to what they did. And so what I'm saying is, that what I'm asking is, it's basic economics that the auto industry or any industry is going to have to follow what 40, like if they're not going to create two different products or two different cars or two different systems if California is saying one thing. And so I guess I'm trying to ask, where are you going with this argument? Is it based on an economic argument that California is doing this? Is it based on a sociological concern about the essence of California? That why does that matter for your argument? Because I think when we're talking about what the decision was made at the board, originally it was about how California sort of moves the economy and moves industry, not so much about they're making some kind of policy that is in your mind maybe different from what I might think it is.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give it a wag if I could. So I guess it's both. To formulate our policies off of California, and as I just stated, it started out with this Clean Cars 1, and now it's going to be automatically rolling into 2. So that was the thing. I don't think maybe any of us foresaw. I hope not. I hope we didn't vote to do this knowing that was going to be coming down the pike. But so from that standpoint, that's an area of concern. But then also, what we see in California, I don't necessarily have anything inherently against California, but some of the standards, and I would also say, apart from vehicles, we're seeing California with brownouts, with their overall energy policy. I mean, it's not it's not the most sound, in my humble opinion.
All right, let's continue on with the people speaking for the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Brett Vassy, CEO of the Virginia Manufacturers Association. We do support the bill for all the reasons already been mentioned. We'll also give a couple of new facts. 0.75%, that's your current electric vehicle registrations by DMV, 0.75% of all vehicles. Our supply chain, it is not possible to replace 8 million vehicles in this short a time frame with the issues we have with critical minerals being sourced from places that, quite frankly, use child labor or slave labor, the production of microchips to be able to operate these vehicles, all of the supply chain. It's going to take time. The second thing to make you all aware is these vehicles, we've heard for decades how all we have to do is do more mandates, more incentives, the price will be more affordable. This is a rich person's car for the most part. The average price is $58,000. Our trucks that we manufacture in Virginia are premium vehicles as well, and they have limited applications right now. We're not saying that they shouldn't be on the market. We want them to be on the market, but we don't want to mandate them through California on Virginians. We want to chart our own path. If you want to ban the internal combustion engine, you should vote on that.
Okay, thank you. And next. All right, we have a question. Delegate William Graves.
Thank you for the last speaker.
Yes.
You're representing manufacturing.
Yes.
Okay, so are you able to explain how, with California's current standards, they're going to meet that goal? Or is it your expectation that because of all of the issues that you raised, they will push their goal back?
I wish I could predict California. That is a very complicated question. I can say that most manufacturers have figured out how to supply California independent of the rest of the nation because they can impose lots of cost on their consumers that the rest of the states don't, and we can still meet those needs. I mean, for instance, if we were to convert our entire transportation fleet to electric battery powered, we would have to find a way to dispose of 4 billion pounds of toxic batteries. And we just had a discussion about landfills. We have no clue how to do that yet. Either does California, by the way.
Last question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Follow up.
You gave a percentage of 1/4 of 3.
0.75% is the DMV registration electric vehicles.
Okay, 3/4 of 1%.
Roughly.
What would you, do you think that this time frame, this expanded time frame, would allow you reasonably, with all the things that you're talking about, would allow everyone to get up to speed and up and running? Or will we be back here in 3 more years asking for 5 more years?
I think we can get close. I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I thought that you could get 100% there within a rigid time frame. I'll give you a reference. The last time we had a major debate as a nation was a few years ago around the Chevy Volt after the recession, 2008, 2009, and now we have Tesla. So in 12 years, we've come a long way, but we're still nowhere close to where California wants us to be. So it's going to take time.
And does every manufacturer have at least one electric car?
I believe that most domestic manufacturers will have at least one option in their fleet.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Quick question. All right. Are there any electrical vehicle manufacturers in Virginia? And are there any limitations on our ability to build?
We have, Mr. Chairman, Delegate, we have one, and they make a heavy truck, a Class 8 truck. And the limitation is battery and payload. So they're primarily going to be used in urban areas for short haul, 100 and some miles. But we're making them today.
All right, Delegate Belova, question?
Yeah, I guess, thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at kind of the big differences between the original and the substitute, I guess the one that gives me the greatest cause for concern is the shall to may in terms of promulgating those final regulations. And so, I can understand that there might be a legitimate argument with respect to providing the timing and ramping up between 2025 and 2030. My read of this is that it's now completely discretionary whether those regulations ever get promulgated, whether or not it's 2025 or 2030. That would seem to go ahead and undercut the whole idea, that we're going to go ahead and push the market in this direction. And I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts and insights on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We changed the shall to may because the belief is going to be that it's going to naturally take place. It is going to move forward already without forcing, without us making it a shall.
All right, we have one more to speak in favor of the bill.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Michelle Satterlin on behalf of Volkswagen Group of America. And we are a manufacturer located in Virginia that manufactures the ID4, which is an electric vehicle, and it is a medium price point vehicle. So just in terms of the other speaker that said it was over 58,000, it is not. So just want to make that point clear. We support the bill. We are all in when it comes to electric vehicles. However, we see this as a comprehensive package. The ZEV bill that was passed last year, that we're now extending the timeline, was accompanied as part of a package that included an EV rebate. So the EV rebate bill did pass, but it was not funded. In order to move forward, particularly as California has done, they put in millions of dollars in investments, both in incentives and infrastructure. We have not done that in Virginia. We need more time, and this bill gives us that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I think we have a question for the speaker.
Real quick, what is a medium point cost of a vehicle?
So the framework, Mr. Chair,
yes,
the framework that was put in place last year said that the EV rebate could go from vehicles that were used under $25,000 up to $55,000. There is a variety of vehicles that span from that $25,000 to $55,000 price
I guess
range.
my question is, what is the cost of your vehicle to the consumer right now?
The cost of the ID4 ranges from $40,000 to $50,000 depending on the different components that you have put on.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, sir. Delegate Lopez. I think they'll have a chance here in a second. Let's go to people speak against the bill. We've got two in the virtual room. Is Wyatt Gordon there, or is this Lena Lewis?
Mr. Speaker, members of the committee, Lena Lewis with the Nature Conservancy. I know the hour is late, so I'll be brief. We oppose this bill, and I just want to address one of the misconceptions that was raised by somebody who supports this bill. The advanced clean car standards do not address the cars that are on the road today. Somebody brought up the idea that we don't have time to replace 8 million cars that are on the road. That's not what the advanced clean car standards does. It only addresses cars that manufacturers bring to sale in Virginia. People who are driving cars now can keep driving them as long as they want. This only talks about which cars manufacturers are bringing for sale. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And anyone in the room to speak against the bill?
Good evening now. Trip Pollard with the Southern Environmental Law Center. Less than a year ago, the General Assembly adopted this measure. It's one of our most important tools we have to combat one of the largest sources of pollution that we have. And it will give consumers greater choice of vehicles, it will reduce pollution, and it will save them money. There have been a lot of misconceptions mentioned, I'm afraid, about this bill. One, Ms. Lewis just mentioned, there's nothing in this bill that says you replace a single vehicle that's on the road today. That's not required by the current Clean Car Standard. In addition, there's nothing in the Clean Car Standard that says any Virginian has to buy an electric vehicle. All it says is manufacturers have to ramp up, and federal law gives time. You have to ramp up the number of cleaner vehicles, both fossil fuel and electric vehicles, that you provide to Virginia. We've heard a lot about California. We have two choices in the Commonwealth under the Federal Clean Air Act. You either accept what Congress and Washington gives you, or you join 15 other states and adopt the state model that is more protective for citizens. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And anyone else to speak against the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Don Hall with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. You probably are somewhat surprised to see me here in this capacity. Let me tell you to begin with, I do drive the ID4 and it is $45,000, number one. Number two, lots of things were said that were incorrect. My members are the ones who will be selling through the franchise system EVs through our franchise system. And the bottom line is this: in Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, and the Richmond area, my dealers cannot and do not get the cars. Those states that require CARB, the northeastern states, if you want an EV today, those dealers will get those cars. As long as Virginia does not do this, we will not have these cars available. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, EVs are here to stay. It is international. They're not going away. I'm happy to address any and all questions, but understand clearly, we will not get the cars to sell you. You will buy them in Maryland and other states because of not having CARB in place. That's what guarantees we get the cars.
I have a question.
All right, we have a question. Delegate Williams-Graves.
Yep. So just to be clear, what you're saying is that the current mandate puts pressure on or priority for Virginia to get the cars that it needs. If we push it back, then that priority and that sense of urgency is lost. And so we won't get them in a timely manner because there is no requirement, for lack of a better word, for them. Is that what I'm understanding you to say?
Mr. Chairman, the delegate has said it. Amen. It is absolutely the case. I could have 100 dealers here today to tell you they are not getting EVs. They are not. If you're in Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, other states, you are getting them where they're part of the CARB. So yes, it will postpone us getting those cars for sure. And that is the future where we're going.
Delegate Weber.
So, two questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Delegate Weber.
So since we passed this bill, did our dealers start getting the cars?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate, the answer is until CARB is effective, we get them in trickles. They just come in, but a lot of the dealers are not getting them. So until the 2025 model, no, we are not seeing much. That's why we've been hoping and gearing up and spending a lot of money on EV equipment in our dealerships.
Mr. Chairman, further.
Yes, sir. Delegate Rupp.
All right, so then it's up to government to create a false demand for these cars so that the car manufacturers provide us with these cars?
Mr. Chairman, I can't really address whether it's up to the governor or not. What I will say to you is this. If you want your dealers in Virginia to be successful, they have to have EVs in their inventory. We are not getting them, nor will we get them, until there is a huge surplus, because Virginia will not be a CARB state if this bill is successful in its passage. So minus that, we will not have them. We will not have cars to sell. That is where we're going. We won't get them until there's a large supply of those cars available in the marketplace.
Further question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Delegate Weber.
I guess my question is in regards to the current status of cars and the current status, as the gentleman pointed out, that we needed a surplus in other states in order for us to get these cars. I guess my question is, in current supply chain issues, it seems like it would be prudent to back this up for 5 years simply because we're just not getting the parts, the batteries, or the semiconductor parts.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, much of this will be cleared up, we believe, by the end of this year. Again, the states that are CARB states, I believe it's 14 states now, that are CARB states will get the vehicles. Those who will not, as indicated by the delegate earlier with her question, will not get them until later, meaning putting our dealers in Virginia at a disadvantage with a car that, again, ladies and gentlemen, it is here to stay. They are not going away. They are indeed the future, whether we like that or not. It is the future.
All right. Anyone else to speak against the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question nonetheless.
Yes, sir. Delegate Runyon, question.
So I'm curious to know, is there a guarantee that Virginia would get the additional cars or be in the list if this legislation stayed in place, or if one of our other 14 friends would say, you know, my folks aren't getting enough cars, so I'm going to sweeten the pot? Has that not happened? I guess I just don't understand why it's this bright line thing, and what guarantees that Virginia dealers will be treated equitably, or why wouldn't Virginia dealers say, well, if we do one Hershey Kiss, let's give them two, and I'll get all the cars that I want? I don't follow this, Don.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question, Delegate. The answer is this. The states that are CARB states and the states that have put rebate money are getting all the cars they want because the manufacturer can sell them. The states that are CARB states without mandate, or without rebates rather, are going to get less of them. So it does require some rebates and the CARB to be in place. Minus that, we don't get the surplus of cars. I have dealers right now that literally have 30, 40 cars on order, and they know they're not going to get them for as many as 3 or 4 years at a minimum because we're not a CARB state. There is no incentive. Remember, if you're a CARB state, as a result, the manufacturers have to produce extra inventory for those states. So those states get the cars earlier than those states who are not, even if there is demand in those other states.
All right. So we have Delegate Williams-Graves.
So, question for the witness. So is it fair to say that Virginia dealers could actually lose business because they're not able to be competitive in having the inventory that they need if we move forward with this extension? Is it fair to say that Virginia dealers could lose business?
And Mr. Chairman, Delegate, the answer is we already know factually that we are losing sales in Maryland, which is a CARB state. In other states, which are also CARB states, we are losing sales as we speak. Minus CARB, again, there is no real incentive to provide those cars. So there is this federal mandate, or CARB mandate, if you will. They've got to provide cars. The other states will get them to you when we can, is the answer we get.
All right. And one more question. Delegate Weber.
Question for Don. Which is the greatest carrot for the manufacturers to send us cars? Is it the fact that we're going to force our citizens to buy them, or the fact that we're going to give them a rebate?
Mr. Chairman, it's a good question to ask, and I appreciate the delegates' question and thinking about it. The answer is this: CARB alone will not cause sales to take place. We cannot force that just by having CARB in place. For early adopters, it does take incentives. The states who have incentives are selling these vehicles. The problem is this in a nutshell. The OEMs internationally, that's the United States and Europe and so forth, are all now committed to EVs. They are coming, again, whether we like it or not, they're coming in large amounts, but they will take care of the CARB states first, and then those states with rebates available first. So Virginia dealers will be disadvantaged for a number of years as a result if CARB is not in place. It would have been in place. We would have seen it as early as the 2024 year for the 25 model. Minus this bill taking place, it would be the 29 year for the 30 model before we'd see them, and we would lose a significant amount of sales. This is not me sort of just guessing or backing my way into it. We already factually have dealers who can attest to the loss of sales going to other states, being sold in those states because we don't have those cars available to us. We're not getting them because of lack of CARB.
All right. I think we've talked this to pieces, right? All right, Delegate, well, last word.
Yeah, several points, if I could. So the whole notion, I don't want anybody to think that if the electric vehicles aren't available that are Virginia dealers, they're still going to sell vehicles. People are still going to have to buy vehicles, and so that was that, and that kind of goes into one of the other points that was made earlier. That no, we're not forcing anyone to buy these, but by default, it is. If we allow this other standard, this Clean Cars 2, to move forward, by default, it's going to say no combustion engines can be sold in the state of Virginia. And by default, we are forcing our citizens to have to buy a particular vehicle. Mr. Chairman, and I'll end with it. It was interesting that another committee, there was a piece of legislation that we looked at that wanted to create a study that would figure out why we need more people out doing the whole electric wiring for charging stations, that whole arena. And so, as it applies to this, it kind of goes along. I thought it was very interesting. All I'm doing is just trying to delay it 5 years. I'm all in for electric vehicles. It's all about, but it has to be measured. And so that's why we're doing this. And we're just not ready to do it at the level. And I can't help but think that those car manufacturers, if I'm in business to sell anything, maybe it's widgets, I'm going to make, if I know that I can sell them regardless of where they're at, let's presume for a second all 50 states made this demand, passed this kind of thing. Where are those vehicles going to come from? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Delegate Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I just would like to say that I'm going to support this legislation for a variety of reasons. First is this: we may be a CARB state, but we're also a CARB state with 14 other states that we compete with to get cars. And currently, the Virginia government says we're going to get rid of carbon cars and you're going to buy an electric car. And therefore, we are actually forcing our citizens to buy electric cars. Therefore, the government is creating the marketplace rather than the marketplace creating itself. I have serious issues with that. The other issue is this. In regards to the fact that we are tied to California and what California does, I speak for my citizens. The current status of the code does not allow me to do that. We follow California. California is speaking for my citizens rather than me. And I want to be able to speak for my citizens, and my citizens don't find a $45,000 EV affordable. At least some of them. That's why I drive a $23,000 Malibu that gets 426 miles per tank. Because I can't today go out and buy a $45,000 vehicle, $80,000 vehicle, $90,000 vehicle. And by the way, with the supply chain right now, I can't get one. I want to buy a new truck for my farm. That thing's $100,000. By the way, I'm going to keep driving my 2011 Ford. So I'm going to support this legislation wholeheartedly because all it does is set us back 5 years and give our citizens a chance to have a say at the table. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. The bill rests with the committee. All right, we've got a motion to report, properly seconded, House Bill 1267.
I think he's a yes. I mean, I'll double check.
House Bill 1267 reports 7-4. All right, and the last bill, Delegate Bulva.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. As people leave, you might not want to leave because we've saved the best bill for last. All right, so you might want to make that motion. That will save you some time and energy. Actually, Virginia has a special procurement section for energy and operational efficiency performance-based contracting. And so basically what this allows is a facility owner to use an energy service company to pay for upgrades when with anticipated energy savings. And so it basically allows you to make these upgrades without tapping into your initial capital budget. The original bill was actually put in by Delegate Kilgore, but it was amended in 2017 in a couple different ways. And one of the ways it was amended was a prohibition on the act from being able to be used for roof replacements. That, however, resulted in some unintended procurement challenges when it comes to rooftop solar replacement. And so simply put, it's not unusual, unheard of, as you can kind of imagine, that a solar project would involve some level of replacement of a rooftop. And oftentimes, that's not even known that you need to go ahead and replace a piece of that roof until after the contract has been let and you're engaging in the process. So that has put a wet blanket on a lot of these different rooftop solar projects. What this bill does, it fixes that challenge by simply allowing for rooftop replacement when it is necessary for the installation of an energy efficiency measure. It also allows for those change orders. So if you've already gone through the contracting process, you get up there, you're doing the installation, and you're like, oops, we do need to go ahead and replace this roof. It allows you to do that as well. With one key proviso, which is because it wasn't part of the original contracting bidding process, it is required to go through the procurement process and be put on DGS's EVA procurement system. So that just makes sure that there's a way to go ahead and let the contracting community know that there is a project to be had and keep the process competitive. I know that the stakeholders have worked really hard on this bill. My understanding is that there is peace in the valley on this, but I also know that Preston Bryant is here to go ahead and ask all of your tough questions if you have them. But that is the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. So any questions for the patron?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So a question I would have, so when we're talking about roof replacement, are we just talking about the shingles, or because it would seem to me that we'd be more concerned about, especially on an existing structure, snow load. Now we're getting into truss design and so forth. I mean, that can be pretty extensive. So exactly what are we talking about?
Mr. Chairman, Preston Bryan on behalf of Schneider Electric. In effect, if Accomack County High School wanted to do rooftop solar, they get up there and they find out, we've got to do a lot of roof work. Under the current statute, the last line in paragraph A says you can't do roof work under this statute. This would fix that and say, oh yeah, you can do a change order, procure it under the same procurement here, and go ahead and do the roof work. Directly to your question, it also says that you have to have a design professional, architect or engineer look at it and do the design. So we're covering that. So we had the Contractors Association, the Virginia Energy Efficiency Council, the roofing contractors were very much part of this as well. So I think we took care of that structural question I think you have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So would there come a time when it wouldn't be cost effective to install? I mean, are we looking at this up front, or we're halfway through the job and say, oh heck, now we got a big problem?
Yeah. So first of all, the statute does nothing to prohibit allowing you to procure the solar work and the roof work at the same time. And that's typically the way you would go about it, as you know. But here, if you get up there and you didn't do that, and you find out after the fact that you need to do a change order effectively to do the roof work, as it's done now, the job has to stop. And you have to go back and probably through the local government's own CIP, prepare yet another budget, do the roof work, do the roof procurement, and then you have a hard time marrying those up because so much time has passed. Usually the projects just fall apart at that point. So this would fix that. And they would evaluate, the cost effectiveness of it, obviously all at the same time. Yes, sir.
All right, any more questions about the bill itself? All right, anyone to speak in favor of the bill? Question? I'm sorry. Delegate Williams-Graves.
Quick question is just, is it possible to have, or is it because of the procurement process has to take place for the roof work, you can have one roofing contractor and you can have a different solar contractor and it's not the solar contractor, we need a roof, wink, wink to the roofer, that those two are still separated out.
They can be separate and they have to procure it separately. You can, effectively, this is a more efficient way to do it because they can effectively do a change order, but it's still a separate procurement, separately procured, competitive bid.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and anyone to speak in favor of the bill?
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Harnish. I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Energy Efficiency Council. We represent several energy service companies, which actually we appreciate working with both Preston and with Delegate Bulova to bring this bill forward. Energy service companies like Trane Technologies, Siemens, Schneider Electric, Johnson Controls, and many others. So we really appreciate this opportunity and this fix. Back in 2017, when the sentence was stricken saying that roof replacements couldn't be done, it wasn't so problematic. But right now we do actually have 2 localities in Northern Virginia where they cannot move forward with projects. They would like to put solar on the roof, and they are going to have to finance that roof replacement and that solar piece separately from the other project moving forward through the performance contract. And one other thing I want to mention that hasn't been mentioned yet is that the performance contracting program is actually run through the Virginia Department of Energy. And so they have fully vetted 15 energy service companies. Those are the only companies that can do energy performance contracting. So they are fully vetted and, cross all their T's, dot all of their I's. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speak in favor of the bill?
Real brief, Mr. Chairman, Joe Lurch, Virginia Association of Counties. Just note that this has been a successful program for our members over the years, and we see this as an efficient way to fix a hiccup that has come along during this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone speaking against the bill?
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded on House Bill 1225. Vote on the voting bill, please. All right. Bill reports 10-0. Thank you. And I'll take a quick second to thank the staff, the work of the Chesapeake. The work of the Chesapeake sub has now finished until we get the Senate bills. Thank you very much.